Good evening and welcome to the February 26th meeting of the Finance Committee. I will now call the meeting to order. Please be advised that FAT is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating your name and city of residence. Seeing no one. At this time, I ask that all electronic devices be placed into silent mode. Finance Committee has a full committee tonight. I'm joined by my colleagues, Councilors Walsh, President Zarella, Councilors Boschman and Kuchar. I am the chair, Councilor Cruz. I invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to please approach the podium, identify yourself by name and address, and identify the agenda item on which you would like to speak. You may speak for no more than 2 minutes.
Jacqueline Wetchy, Fitchburg resident, speaking on communication. The proposed CDBG funding covers many good programs totaling approximately $1 million, and it's all in jeopardy due to item Q. This item includes funding for, quote, targeted outreach to minority business owners, end quote, and is an example of DEI. The federal government funds CDBG, and President Trump has made it abundantly clear that he will defund anyone promoting DEI policies. Please remove item Q from our CDBG programming for this year. This item is to fund NewView, and they are hosting Zoom seminars telling people how to avoid ICE deportations, which will also put our city in the administration's crosshairs if you retain item Q. NewView has come to expect money from our CDBG every year. Time to stop the entitlement mentality and use these funds for non-controversial purposes as allowed by the federal government.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing no one, we will now move on to our agenda. I'm going to ask if it's all right from committee members that we move the first item 018-25 towards the end of our agenda when we handle the community development block grant stuff, as that also pertains to Director Murphy. That's all right. We'll go on to the second item of our agenda. 023-25, order the City of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the Shannon Community Safety Initiative Grant awarded by the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security in the approximate amount of $479,882 to address the underlying causes of criminal activity and to build positive relationships with young people. To speak on that, we have Chief Giannini. Welcome.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you for having me. I'm actually going to be very brief. For the first time in well over a decade, I am not the program manager for the Shannon grant. When I became chief, that task got passed on to Lieutenant Dan Bellafato. So I brought Dan here with me tonight, and he's going to address the council if it's okay with you.
Okay. It's all right with me.
Okay.
It's not okay with me.
All right. Well, I'm the chair.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. As you know, we've had Shannon Grant for multiple years. It's a great partnership that uses multi-sector and multi-community program that allows us to address the underlying causes of drug use, youth violence, and criminal activity by building positive relationships within young people and offers community-wide resources to assist them. The grant allows us, not only the police, but other organizations within the city and other cities around us to get involved with the younger people early on to attempt to deter crime.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Do I have questions from committee members? Councilor Boschman.
How many cities? Isn't it 10? It's 10 city?
The cities that I work with would be Leominster, Fitchburg, and Gardner, sir.
Okay, it's Fitchburg. Now, how long, ever since I've been on this council, I believe this has been coming in front of us all every year for the last probably pretty close to 10 years, I would say, huh? Anthony?
Yep.
Pretty close to 10 years. How long is this grant going to last for?
I am unable to answer that. I don't have an answer to that, sir.
No. Is it working? That's the other big question. Does the grant help?
I believe it allows us to get involved in the youth in our city. I mean, there's no real, I don't know if you can say it 100% works. I know that we get involved. We have our youth police academy, junior police academy that we get involved with younger people in our city. And I think it makes a positive impact on their lives.
Okay. All right. I yield the floor, sir.
Thank you. Any further questions from committee members? President Zarella.
I just wanted to mention the question of how long the grant will last is really dependent on the state. It depends on how long the state continues to maintain the program. But I've certainly heard no rumors of it being defunded anytime soon. So I'm glad that we continue to receive it, and from everything I've heard over my time on the council, I'd say it has been quite a success. So thank you, and I'll be in support of continuing to make use of this money.
Thank you, Councillor. I just have a few questions myself.
Sure.
So, sort of, if you can, for us and for people watching, what sort of programs do you offer that sort of build those relationships with young people? What's your outreach like?
Yeah. So we offer, there's a couple of different things. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, we have the Junior Police Academy, where we have a week-long academy for the youth in our city that just teaches them some basic things of what law enforcement does, first aid, just some discipline drills, things like that. We also partner up with the Shining Light Ministries, which reaches out to other high-risk young people, usually where they're not attracted to traditional youth leadership. So it's kind of another resource where they may not feel welcome in other areas, but this group attracts the rest that aren't, that wouldn't go to the Junior Police Academy, for example. We partner with the Spanish American Center. They have after-school programs to also help with engage at-risk youths. The police department has a couple of different avenues that we do. We truancy checks. So officers will go check on children that didn't show up to school to make sure that, one, they have the resources that they need, the home's a safe area for them, and why aren't they coming to school. We have mentoring programs where officers will go where these children are playing basketball down at the parks, or after-school programs, just check in, let them know that we're here to help, make relationships with them. And then we do have the final stage that the police have, which is the enforcement side. For those that do fall through the cracks at those stages, we can still do some enforcement while they're still young to try to ultimately deter them from ending up in a life of crime.
Mm-hmm. Would you be able to provide some later date a budget of how this $479,000 and change is allocated to these different programs?
I could. I don't have those numbers in front of me right now.
That's quite all right. I think that would be helpful for the future, definitely for us to all take a look at.
Sure.
Chief Giannini, please join us.
What exactly are you looking for, just Fitchburg?
Close to $500,000 here, sort of how it's allocated with all the different programs, the timing for officers, things of that nature.
Okay, Fitchburg Police Department is roughly $95,000. That goes into all the programs that Lieutenant Belafato just mentioned. Okay. Most of that is overtime for the officers to partake in those activities. Okay. Mount Wachusett Community College is a total of roughly $62,000. Making Opportunities Count, or MOC, is $116,000. Shining Light Ministry is approximately $62,000. Spanish American Center is approximately $66,000. The Gardner Police Department is approximately $46,000, and approximately $34,000 goes into administrative to run the grant.
Okay, I see. I think that's all I have. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I got a question for the chief.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Chief, you giving money to Mark and to these different places? Have you ever, do they ever come back to you and say we're improving, or we just take it for granted that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
No, there's quarterly reporting for all partner agencies. Those reports are reviewed by the police department because we're the financial administrator, and then they're submitted to the state where they undergo another review.
Okay, all right. Yield the floor.
I actually have one more question. Thank you, Counselor.
Yes.
How are officers determined who get involved in the program? Is it sort of voluntary? Is it a selective process?
It's entirely voluntary.
Entirely voluntary.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that one.
We have a motion in a couple seconds to approve 023-25. Seeing no objection, we'll take this under unanimous consent. It is approved. Thank you. 024-25, order the City of Fitchburg hereby appropriates the sum of $700,000, same to be charging its available funds and credit to the following Department of Public Works: snow and ice accounts, personal services overtime, and expenses salt. For that, we have Commissioner Erickson here. Thank you, Commissioner.
Handout to accompany the discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, councilors, for the opportunity to be here tonight to speak in front of you. As mentioned, we're requesting an appropriation from available funds, $700,000, to be credited to the city's snow and ice accounts. $625,000 of that to be credited to our SALT account, and $75,000 to be used towards personal services overtime. That's overtime labor for our DPW staff. So the handout that I just gave you all shows our breakdown of snow and ice budget and FY25 spend to date. So as you all know, our budgeted amount for the year is $550,000. We spent so far to date $1,105,091. So we're tracking well above our budgeted amount. And then I've provided some statistics on this winter so far. We've had 9 icing events, 9 plowable snow events for a total of 18 events. Our average snowfall is about 72 inches. We're at about 34.5 inches, which is about 50% of average. What kills us is really the small 2-3-inch storm events and the icing events, because we have to go out, we have to treat, we have to take care of the roads. That all amounts to quite a bit of spending. So I've also broken it down by through 4 different categories here. So first category is DPW labor, and that's overtime above and beyond normal 7 to 3 shift Monday through Friday. So our budgeted amount is $130,000. We've spent currently $303,273. That represents roughly 27.5% of our total budget spend to date. For our private contractors, we budget $140,000. We've spent $188,000, $122,000. Sorry, it's a mouthful to say, which represents approximately 17% of our total spend for this year. And then we have the equipment category, which is really plows, plow blades, not the large capital items, but the smaller things that we go through during the course of a winter season. We budget $140,000 for that. Currently, we've spent $38,596 to date, represents approximately 3.5% of our total spend. Then moving to the back of that sheet, we get to the big expense, the salt and the sand. So we budget $140,000 per year. We've spent $575,101 to date so far, and that represents 52% of our overall FY25 spend. So you also see a chart that shows a breakdown of salt and sand over the past 5 or so fiscal years. So compared to previous fiscal years, we're already just about, we're well above our previous spend for salt over the past several fiscal years. 2015, I think, was the last year that we came close to spending this amount. And I don't have that number here with me. I just have the total snow and ice spending, but I could provide that if you'd like. And then for sand, we've spent only $1,530 so far this year. But as you all know, we're moving away from running a salt and sand mix and going to straight salt. So that's the reason why you don't see a lot in that sand portion of the table. Most of that cost is in the salt portion of the table. So then I've provided a breakdown of historic spending back through fiscal year 2009. So we're near the top of the spending among all those fiscal years dating back to 2009. As I mentioned, FY 2015 was a big year. That's when we had a lot of snow, similar to what we're seeing as far as frequency this year, but the snow totals were like, 10, 12 inches each storm as opposed to 2 to 3 inches each storm. And back in 2015, we spent $1.529 million. That was 10 years ago. In today's dollars, that would probably be significantly more. It'd be probably closer to $2 million. So that's where we're at this year. We're only the end of February. We usually get 3 or 4 storm events between now and the end of snow and ice season. Some of those March, April storms are usually heavy, wet, large snow total storms. So we could very well spend the full $700,000 that I'm requesting. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
Questions from committee members?
I got a question.
Councilor Boschman.
I know he's not going to like it. My question is, can I ask you a question, Nick? On the small storms, 2 to 3 inch storms, what takes so long? Why does it take more than 24 hours to do this 2 to 3 inch storm? And I don't mean to be sarcastic. but I was really upset, not this storm here. I know this storm was kind of hard to do, the prior one. The one prior to that one, I was really upset because half the streets weren't done, and I was up in his ward because my son called me up because he wasn't filled when he asked me to plow them out. And the St. Drew Boulevard at 4 o'clock in the afternoon wasn't plowed. And I plowed it. I plowed the whole street that day. And I don't understand why on a 2 to 3 inch storm it's taking 24 hours plus to do 2 or 3 inches. I can't phantom it in my head. I don't understand it.
I mean,
I understand. I plow. You already know I plow.
Yep.
So I understand the basics of plowing. So, you know, I'm not an expert, but I do plow. So when I was up there, and I know I talked to a couple of your guys that were working, and one kid told me he was very, very tired. I said, well, go home to bed. I said, I feel sorry for it. But I was really upset because the residents were asking me, not my ward, and they were asking me why wasn't this done. And they were afraid it wasn't going to get done at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was supposed to get very, very cold, and everything turned to ice. So that's why I did it. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just did it for that reason. And I was upset because 2 or 3 inches of snow, we couldn't even push it back. We weren't even pushing it back. We were staying from the banking, an original status quo banking, we were staying 3 feet away from both sides. And I said, I didn't understand why. I understand the roads are bad. And I'll take that wholeheartedly because St. Jude Boulevard is terrible. And you plow it, you'll damage your truck. So if you guys think I criticize these guys for not doing a good job, I'm sorry, but I did. I am criticizing. But I can understand why you can't get people to come here because our roads are terrible. And I'm not going to spend $100,000 on a truck to damage my truck. But my question is to you, why does it take 24 hours plus to do a 2 to 3 inch storm that I don't understand why it takes so long?
Well, the biggest challenge is the lack of equipment that we have on our end and the lack of third-party contractors that we have overall. So we have the city broken up into 12 different plow zones. Each plow zone takes roughly 3 to 4 hours to complete. So really we need upwards of 30 trucks to clear the storm in a somewhat reasonable amount of time. But between equipment breakdowns, contractors that don't come in, our own guys that are on vacation or taking time off, sick time, et cetera, that's what really limits our ability to clean up those smaller storms fastest. And that's the reality of what we're facing. On any given day, we have roughly 25 pieces of equipment that we field on our end internally within DPW, and we could have 6 or 7 breakdowns, and that takes a huge toll on the amount of time that we can quickly and efficiently clean up after a storm. So on those 2 to 3 inch storms where you're seeing 24, 36 hours afterwards, we're still going. It's because we're suffering breakdowns, we're lacking contractors, we really don't have enough people to clear the roads as quickly as we really should be. And that's the difference now between where we were, say, 10 years ago. We had 3 to 4 times the amount of contractors. On a good day, when everyone comes in, we can field 14 pieces of equipment with contractors. And that's not a large number. We really need to be up in the 60 to 80 pieces of equipment range to clear the roads as quickly as you'd like them to be cleared. That's typically what our neighboring city of Leominster fields. On a really good day, when all the contractors come in, all of our guys come in, and all of our equipment's working, we can field 35 or so pieces of equipment, and that's less than half of what Leominster's doing. And we have more lane mileage. And we don't just plow public ways, we plow private ways. We're taking care of the whole city, and that's over 200 miles of roadway.
210 miles.
That's a lot to clean up with less than 35 pieces of equipment.
Now, do you call in the water department too with their trucks? Do they come and help?
So we call in the cemetery division, the water division, the wastewater division, wastewater collections division, and parks division. Out of those divisions, there's plows on some of those vehicles, but not all of those vehicles. So water department only has 1 truck with a plow, I believe, and we don't use that to clean up roadways. But we do have water division personnel that come in to assist our guys with running our trucks and we can cycle those in as guys get tired and so on and so forth. Cemetery has a couple of 1-tons that they send in with plows to help us out. Parks has a couple of 1-tons with plows that they send in to help us out. Wastewater Collections has 3 1-tons with plows that come in to help us out. All those vehicles definitely help out, but they're in a similar boat to the rest of the Streets Division in the sense that a lot of those vehicles are old and tired. A lot of the plows have been Frankensteined and welded back together year over year. We've got one truck in DPW Streets that's technically been totaled like 2 or 3 times by insurance standards, and we're still running it. I think that truck actually went off the edge of, is it Federal Street, and landed in someone's backyard a number of years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we're still running it. Like, that's crazy to me that we're still running equipment that's been totaled twice because we can't afford new stuff. And that's really our bottleneck right now, between that and the lack of contractors that we have. And it's not just us. I'd like to think it's just the city of Fitchburg, but you look at Worcester and some of the headlines from just the storm last week, they're dealing with even bigger problems than we have. I know they're a bigger city, but bigger city, bigger problems. So that's, hopefully that's the answer to your question. I know it's a long-winded answer, but.
It was a long-winded question, I think. It was a long-winded question, so it required a long-winded answer. Do you have any additional questions, Councillor?
No, you made me forget.
I mean, we haven't bought a new 6 or 10-wheel dump truck in years. In fact, the last 2 new ones that we did buy were 2 internationals, and both of them turned out to be lemons, and we were spending $20,000 to $30,000 every year just to get them running for 1 or 2 storms, and then they'd break down again. So we ended up trading those away. But in order to buy a brand new 6-wheeler or 10-wheeler dump truck with a plow and a sander, you're talking $250,000 each at least, probably more. And unless you want to start funding it in the annual budget, I got to take it out of Chapter 90. And if I take it out of Chapter 90, that means less streets that are getting paved. So we're in a damned if we do, damned if we don't situation. Pardon my language.
Damn. I said damn. All right. No, don't get me wrong. I understand that you have a lot of problems at the DPW with the equipment, and this council is going to address that when it comes up to the roads. When we get up here and we talk about the roads, we are going to address it. But I was just really upset that day because of to me, when I read on Facebook, what a marvelous job, I look around and I say, what the heck are they talking about? A marvelous job. And, you know, I'll tell you, when you hear me tell you you did a marvelous job, you know you did a marvelous job. Believe me, I don't fool around to make you feel good. I just tell you how it is. I was just upset because the neighbors were asking me what's going on, why is this on a 3-inch storm? And I look around my neighborhood and I see the same thing, and I said, what's going on? I know I called up a couple of times this last storm, but nobody told me they were out of salt, and I did not know you were out of salt. You know, because nobody called me back and say, hey, we're out of salt. And I didn't know. So all I know is what somebody told me. There was a picture, and I said, I don't know anything about it, so I'll call, and I called. But
yeah, and I understand where you're coming from. The other challenge with the frequent breakdowns and whatnot that we're dealing with is if we've got a driver that is assigned a route, he knows his route, that's typically what he drives. If his truck goes down, we got to pull someone off another route to fill that route. And they're not necessarily as familiar. Sometimes they'll miss a street here and there, and that poses a lot of challenges too. If we get 6 breakdowns during a storm, that's 6 vehicles from other routes that don't typically do those routes that they're trying to backfill. And a lot of times that's what causes the chaos and confusion and leads to missed streets. And then you mentioned the condition of the roads. That absolutely has a negative impact on all of our equipment. You know, we've had vehicles that hit manhole covers and like stop a vehicle dead in their tracks. Guys have cuts on their head from bashing off of windshields. You know, it's a rough situation. We had a contractor using a loader in the college area this past week. I think it was on Monday. He hit a manhole. It stopped the tractor dead in its tracks, and he got jostled around in the cab, and the knee broke the windshield of the tractor. So that's some of the stuff we're dealing with too. And with almost all of our roads, except for what we've paved recently, it's really, really difficult to get a good scrape on the road. So, you know, you've got the ruts from the wheel path. No matter how closely you scrape the road, you're still left with residual snow. And that residual snow is what gets packed down and turns to ice pretty quickly. especially, the past couple of storms, we've had rain at the tail end.
Right.
And that causes that icing situation as soon as it starts to freeze up. So those are some of the challenges we deal with.
Real quick, did you say their knee broke the windshield?
Yeah.
Let's make sure they're wearing their seatbelts, huh?
Yeah. And that's my recommendation is to always wear seatbelts, but
Yeah, that's quite the move to get your knee up into the windshield.
Yeah.
Are you all set, Counselor?
I'm going to try to calm down the next storm. That's all I can say.
We appreciate
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate what you told me. The public appreciates it because they thought I was just making up stories, but since you're here and they see it and they hear it. But we will address the subject of the roads this year.
Counselor Kuchar is ready to ask his questions now.
I'll go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank my colleague from Ward 2 coming into Ward 3 to plow a street. That was very nice of you.
Only for my son.
Only for your son, but that's okay. I'm sure there were other residents that were very appreciative. I also just want to express my frustration. I've gotten this past storm was a terrible storm in regards to the cleanup. I understand the issues with the equipment, and there were news articles about how there is a salt shortage. Is it Massachusetts only, all of New England? What exactly is it?
Well, the issue that we're having, so we get our salt from Eastern Salt out of Chelsea, Mass. And I don't believe they're having a shortage necessarily with being able to buy and get salt delivered to their facility. The issue that we're having is they don't have enough drivers and trucks to send enough salt out from their facility to the cities and towns that need it. So what we're seeing is like 1 or 2 loads get delivered here and there instead of, if we've got 50 loads on order, just getting all 50 loads within a matter of a couple of days.
So like us, it's a manpower issue.
I believe so. That's what we're hearing from Eastern. And we've even offered to send our own trucks down there to pick up the salt because we've got contractors that have hauling trucks available to us, but they don't allow for that. And that's been another challenge. I don't know whether it's they don't want the queuing in their yard or if they've got union issues on their end that they're trying to make sure that they don't violate. But we've offered to send trucks down and pick up salt, and they've told us, no, we're not allowed to do that. So we're kind of at the mercy of what they actually deliver to us. We did get 25 loads this past Saturday, which basically refilled the shed. Not quite as much as we could fully stuff in there, but we're expecting a few more loads over the next couple of weeks, too. But going into the storm last week, we were dangerously low. We had like a quarter of the shed full for a storm that really, probably should have put out the whole shed's worth of salt during the course of that storm because of how icy it got at the end. So that's significantly limited our cleanup for the past week or so.
Is there, I was speaking with an individual who, he works for the city of Leominster DPW. Are there other places that we can go and get salt? Are we solely contracted with the Quincy site?
We're contracted through a state consortium through Eastern Salt. We called around to other salt providers to see if anyone had salt that they could send us, and we weren't successful in doing that. So we called Powell, which is a local sand and gravel supply. They didn't have any. We called a place out of Providence. They didn't have any that they could send to us. So we're really limited by the fact that we have to go through Eastern. And also because of the amount of salt that we buy, we have to follow certain procurement laws. And so we need to stick to that contract for the most part. If we go outside of that contract, it needs to be deemed a true emergency, which I guess you could count this past week as a true emergency. But we weren't able to find a vendor that could give us the salt anyways, so it was kind of a moot point.
Yeah, the individual from Leominster indicated that Leominster goes to, I believe, Providence. It might be a different area, but they definitely go to Rhode Island to pick up the salt. I was just wondering, maybe, because it sounds like it was an emergency, and it doesn't appear to be resolving anytime quick. Could you go through that process, and how would you do it?
I think if we were going to contract with another supplier, we'd have to put out some sort of a procurement, and they'd have to bid on the procurement, especially because it's such a high value. You're talking $500,000 worth of salt over the course of a year. that definitely triggers the thresholds for a procurement, a sealed bid procurement like that. So that's, we could look at additional suppliers next year and get a few more on the city's books and be able to pull from different sources. I also heard that Leominster ran out of salt too, so I don't know if their suppliers dealing with the same shortages that Eastern Salt is dealing with also.
And just one more question. Now, you said that each person, the city's zoned out, 14 different zones, I believe is what you said?
12 different zones.
12
yeah.
different zones, thank you. And what, is there like a schedule? Like, is a contractor's going to do this zone, a city guy's going to do this zone, or is it just given out the day of the storm?
Typically, it's given out day of the storm based on the magnitude and severity of the storm and the actual equipment that's working at the time and the drivers that say they're going to come in at that time and the contractors that say they're going to come in. Because of the different terrain in different parts of the city, 1 tons are more suited for some areas that are a little bit tighter, whereas big trucks are suited for the wider roads or roads that are in the country, might be a little bit steeper. So we try to put the right equipment in the right zones, but we need to make sure that we have the right drivers for that equipment because some of the equipment requires CDLs, some does not. And then same with the contractors. Some contractors have larger 6 or 10 wheel dump trucks. Some contractors have smaller 1 tons. So we look at the pool of drivers that we have for a given storm and try to assign the trucks to different zones that way. With our own guys, we try to keep a single person attached to a zone for the duration of a season so that they get familiar with their route and they can learn it and know it very well. With the breakdowns that we do have, we have to pull guys sometimes off their normal route and put them in zones that they're not as familiar with. So, but it all depends on what the storm's looking like and who's coming in.
Now, as whatever person it is, as they're going to their zone, do they plow in sand as they go?
They're supposed to wait until they get to their zone, but our drivers have also been instructed that if you see a road that needs to be plowed or treated on your way out to your zone, to take care of it, especially with the main lines, River Street, Mechanic Street, Main Street, et cetera.
Because this past storm that we had, I got a call from a gentleman on Cascade Street indicating that multiple times a known contractor went up his road with not plowing, not salting, not doing anything, just driving up. And then after I called and said something, then a different contractor came and plowed that road. So that's why I'm wondering, I mean, should they be plowing as they get to their zone if that was the issue?
They should be plowing. I know for some parts of the storm, like the beginning before we have appreciable accumulation, we're just treating with salt. So, depending on what point the storm that contractor was observed, they could have been just treating, or they could have been plowing and treating, or they could have been just plowing. We also have situations where contractors don't like to do damage to their truck, so they'll pick up the GPS from us when they check in, and they'll drive around their routes and not put their plow down because they don't want to damage their trucks or their plows, and they won't run their sander because they don't want to put any wear and tear in the sander. So we try to police that and deal with it as we can. So in that case, we would rely on that report from you or your constituent to say, hey, we've got a contractor driving around not doing anything. Can you look into it? And then we'd have the superintendent or one of the foremans go out there and look around and make a phone call to that particular driver. So we can talk a little bit more offline about that experience and see if we can nail down exactly what was going on.
Sure. And then just 2 more questions, real brief. The sidewalks. I know we had a machine that would do the sidewalks. I've seen multiple complaints about the condition of the sidewalks. There were some people that said, well, it's the homeowner that's supposed to, do the sidewalks. But there are certain places. One in particular, I was very frightened for the woman. It was a few days ago. I was coming around River Street, right, about to go underneath the first railroad bridge, and there was a woman walking with a small child, like in the middle of the road, because the sidewalk wasn't plowed. And I had to, I slammed on my brakes and, had to go around. Mm-hmm. What happened to the machine that, would do the sidewalks?
So we have 2 sidewalk machines that are owned by the Streets Division and 1 that's owned by the Parks Division. The 2 sidewalk machines that are owned by the Streets Division have been going out daily since the storm last week, and they were even out on Monday. What we did get for that storm was 10 inches coated by another inch of rain, and then everything froze within a matter of hours at the end of the day on Sunday. The snow blower and the plow attachments on the 2 sidewalk machines aren't really able to get through a lot of the ice and snow buildup that we have, especially in areas where you've got the windrow that's been moved onto the sidewalk from the plowing operation. A lot of those snowbanks froze solid, and they're wreaking havoc on the snow blowers with shear pins. I mean, the snow blowers that are on the sidewalk machines that we have, they're no different than the snow blowers that you use for your own driveway. They've got shear pins on the auger, and they've got shear pins on the impeller that shoots it out the chute. And if you hit a solid chunk of ice, those shear pins shatter, and they don't work.
Yeah, I know. I just had to replace one.
Yeah, it stinks, and then you're fighting with that in the cold while you're out there. So we're trying to do the best that we can with those 2 machines, but they're not able to get through a lot of the really dense ice and snow banks that we have, especially like right now the upper common, the sidewalk around that inner loop. That's just loaded up with snow and ice that we've tried to get through, and it keeps breaking the shear pins on the snow blowers. Same with like the Putnam Street Bridge, the Water Street Bridge. We had Parks try their sidewalk machine out there, and consequently it spent 2 days at Fairbanks getting repaired. And we had to send it back there just today because it got broken again as soon as it tried to go through some of that ice over on one of the bridges. And the plows really aren't any different. You know, we can take the snowblower off and put the plows on those sidewalk machines. Those are having equally as difficult of a time getting through some of these big, dense snowbanks, just because everything's basically a big solid chunk of ice. So we're trying to do what we can to throw some salt on them, let it melt and soften up, and then come back and get at it. But it's taking us, 3 to 4 times as long as it normally would to clean up all the sidewalks in the areas that we typically clean. And just so for the general public, when we do clean sidewalks, we typically try to focus on the school areas first and the main lines. So that's, Main Street, Mechanic Street, River Street, Westminster Street, and then all of the areas around the schools and other city properties. So that's what we've been working on over the past week, trying to get all those free.
So we've had a few days of warm weather. Is that helping at all to help be able to utilize this equipment to clean the?
It's helping a little bit. It's softened things up to a certain extent, but it hasn't melted everything. There's still, really large icy snowbanks almost everywhere. I'm hoping over the next week it softens up so that we can continue cleaning and getting all those sidewalks done that are still outstanding. We've got 1 to 3 inches of snow in the forecast tonight. We've got some colder nights coming up, warmer days, so we'll still have some of that melting. I think it's supposed to be 50 on Saturday. Sunday's looking extremely cold again. I think the low is 8 degrees, so we're probably going to get back into that refreezing territory. But when we have nights that are really cold, everything that melted during the day just turns back into solid ice. So it helps us, but not to the extent you think it does.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, and really quick before I go to President Zarella, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned there was that salt shortage. I think everybody, any homeowner here, had a real issue with it in their driveways and their walkways. I mean, the yo-yoing temperatures really caused issues for everyone, myself included. Keeping my driveway free of ice was just a challenge in my little space. So the entire city is going to make a real challenge. Regarding the sidewalks, I received some videos and pictures and complaints, and for the most part, it's in front of private property. And I'm not saying that, it was all a challenge for everybody. But ultimately, a big misconception is that we do more sidewalks than we do. And a lot of it is the property owners, and some of them don't live in their buildings. Mr. President.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions scattered throughout what you were saying to my colleagues. You answered my question about contracting with other salt suppliers, just having more people on the hook, so to speak. But when we have contractors in, and you've got these 12 zones and you assign them to different zones, do we have full flexibility with the contractors? In other words, can you assign them as freely as you assign our guys, or are they guaranteed to get a certain amount of plowing when they come in, or on a certain terrain when they come in, or something like that? Like, can you tell them, okay, we thought we were going to have you over here, but we need you over here. Can you please move over there? Or can they say, no, that's not what we contracted for?
We assign them to wherever we need them, so we have flexibility to do so.
Okay.
Some contractors do push back and say, hey, I'm not really familiar with that zone, can you put me in a different area? Based on what we're looking at for drivers in the event and everything, we try to be as flexible as possible, but sometimes our needs are what they are. And if we have a zone that needs a contractor and the contractor is not familiar with that zone, sometimes we have to just say, sorry, you got to go out and take care of that zone for us. Perfect.
That's all I needed to know on that. And this is a completely open-ended, not at all pointed question. I don't know the answer. You said when a truck breaks down, you sometimes have to pull a guy from another zone who doesn't know the first zone as well. Is there a reason that you pull the guy rather than putting the guy from the first zone in the other truck? And having the person who's more familiar with the zone handle it?
Sometimes it's based on who we have available and what licensure they have. Like, so say there's a CDL driver in a big 6-wheel or 10-wheel dump truck that breaks down, and we're backfilling that with a 1-ton because that's all we have available. Well, that 1-ton driver doesn't need a CDL, so it's better to just keep that guy in a 1-ton and let the CDL driver hang out until his truck hopefully gets fixed. We have 4 mechanics. Typically, we bring the mechanics in during snowstorms as well. It's not mandatory for them to come in, but it's very helpful to have them on board, especially for big storms when we have breakdowns and all that. So if a big truck does go down, our mechanics usually try to work on getting that truck back up and running and out the door as quickly as possible. So typically that driver sits and helps assess the damage with the mechanics, and then sometimes helps out with the repair if needed too. So that's another reason why that driver would stay with that truck, and we're backfilling with a truck and a driver from another zone.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you. Then you mentioned that there are some cases where contractors are basically defrauding the city, driving around with their plows up and their machines off and whatnot. Now, I know obviously you do everything you can to police that, and it's not always going to be perfect, but when you do catch someone out on that, do we go for sort of a very aggressive response to that, or is it just, we're not going to call you next time?
A little bit of both. Depends on the severity and magnitude of the issue that we've discovered. We've had conversations with drivers and said, hey, next time we're keeping an eye on you, and you better straighten it out. And if they do, great. And then we've had drivers that repeatedly commit the same issues, same fraud essentially, and we don't bring them back. We terminate their contract, or we don't call them back next year if we're towards the end of the season. So there's a number of drivers that have asked us or submitted paperwork to plow for us, and we've told them no because of past issues. So we try to weed out the bad apples and make sure that they're not brought on the following year.
Do we ever pursue actual penalties against any of these drivers, given that they're not just not doing the job, but they're actually delaying the ability of the city to clear that zone that they're assigned to?
I don't recall a time where we've ever gone after a contractor to pursue penalties. A lot of it depends on the actual tangible evidence that we have too. In most cases, it's verbal reports of things that people are seeing and reporting to us, but there's not necessarily hard evidence as far as pictures or videos, stuff like that. So a lot of times we're relying on what other people say, and then if we've got a few different reports about the same contractor from a few different sources that corroborate each other, that's when we'd either have a discussion with that driver or make a decision to not call them in for the next storm or not bring them back the next year.
Makes sense, yeah. Evidence is always the issue. Last question, based on what you were discussing with Councillor Boschman early on, am I correctly understanding that at least up to a certain level of snow, it's really the total distance, not the volume, that really determines how long it takes? Like,
Correct.
Would it be correct to assume that plowing 2 inches of snow versus plowing 4 inches of snow really takes about the same amount of time?
Essentially, yes, because you still have to cover all 245 miles or so of the roadways, whether you're plowing 2 inches or 4 inches. I mean, you're still covering all that distance anyways. You're still putting out salt to make sure that everything's melted when everything's all said and done. So it takes roughly about the same time for those smaller amounts of snow. Once you start getting into like the 5-6 inches, and we're doing 3 to 4 passes throughout each zone, then it starts to impact the total duration of the operation, and it causes it to be longer.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you very much. I yield the floor.
Councilor Beauchamp.
Nick, you were talking about sand and salt. A vast majority of the communities around here no longer allowing people just to drive up and load up their trucks and that. Leominster, now you get approved that you're a resident. They give you exactly 2 buckets, and you have to prove it. They get a guard there, and they have them show them the ID.
Yep.
Lunenburg just announced, if I'm not mistaken, that they're stopping giving out free sand. The program stopped because it's costing too much money for salt and sand. What is the goal for Fitchburg so we discourage people from surrounding communities come and get what Fitchburg likes to do for free to help his residents, but other communities are coming in here, which I already know some people from a different community came here and loaded up their property so they can take it with them.
So our DPW guys try to monitor that while we're here for an event or during the normal workday. So you know where the sand pile is. It's over next to the Rollstone Bridge over there. Every DPW worker that drives into or out of our facility drives by that, so they keep eyes on it. If they see a truck that's obviously a contractor truck or someone that has out-of-state plates, they'll report that to the superintendent. Superintendent will immediately go out there and have a word with whomever it might be. We've got a sign out there that says limit 5 buckets per person. That's obviously flexible. If you're a Fitchburg resident that lives on the side of Williams Road, for example, you're probably going to need maybe a few buckets more than that 5 buckets for a couple of weeks. So we try to be fair with people and let them take what they need. But certainly if we see out-of-state plates or a contractor, we try to address that immediately. As far as policing that, I'm not sure if there's really a good way to do that unless we move that sand pile behind the gate and somehow require them to check in with dispatch or something like that. That involves some administrative time to help complete and police and all that. So I'm not sure we really have the staff to go there right now. So we have that really large pile of sand sitting in the yard. That's all left over from what we had mined out of the airport, plus a little bit extra that we've accumulated from excavating and sifting and all that over the past couple of years. That's mixed in with salt and then put in that pile over by the Rollstone Bridge for residents. So we've got a decent stockpile there. We're not purchasing sand just to put it out there for residents until we get through that large stockpile of sand there. And we're trying not to use sand at all when we're treating our roads unless we get into an absolute pinch like we did last week. So we're not going through that pile except to re-up the public sand pile. So it'll be a few years, I think, before we actually get through that and get to the point where we're starting to have to purchase sand to give out to the public.
Okay. All right, I yield the floor.
Further questions? Motion to approve. I have a motion and a second to approve. Seeing no objections, take this under unanimous consent. It is approved. Moving on to Order 025-25, the City of Fitchburg hereby appropriates from available funds the sum of $35,000 to facilities contracted services for critical equipment repairs and maintenance at City Hall and Legislative Building. We have the Mayor's Chief of Staff, Alex Vera, here. Mr. Vera.
Good evening. So, as you see, I'm asking for an appropriation of $35,000 to the contracted services line item. So I just want to go over a couple numbers. Last year, snow and ice removal, we spent $6,700. The cost this year so far is $27,235.
How much?
$27,235.
I'll say my questions for after.
Yep. please.
So when the city council approved the city hall renovation project, it was agreed that DPW could not afford to plow city hall and legislative building, leaving facilities responsible for snow removal. When we came on last year, by the end of January, there were already 3 employee injuries because of them doing snow and ice removal themselves. Then we have, I want to go through a few of the emergency repairs we had to make. So there was emergency fire panel replacement. So the 4-year-old pre-action panel unexpectedly failed and required a full replacement. The cost to replace and install the panel was $9,000, and it was a necessary expenditure to keep City Hall up to fire code. The original quote we got was $12,000, and we took the time to solicit other quotes and companies to ultimately save the city $3,000. The front doors in City Hall lobby. The heavy-duty door hinges in the City Hall lobby broke, requiring specialized repairs. Each hinge costs $500, and there's a total of 5 hinges on each of the doors, plus a charge of $175 per hour for labor. The mayor's office staff performed a temporary repair for the security of the building, but this is an upcoming cost. The failure of the front door will inhibit handicap accessible access. We have a water bubbler AC compressor failure. The water bubbler's AC compressor on the 2nd floor of the City Hall has failed and had to be replaced at a cost of $2,200. That is also an upcoming cost. Our HVAC, if you remember, just a few months ago, our HVAC system failure here in the legislative building. That was a failure that happened in the HVAC system, resulted in an unexpected cost of $1,780. These expenses were unavoidable and essential to maintaining the functioning climate control system for the building. The quote to replace the motherboard of the actual HVAC system is $4,669, which may be an upcoming cost. But so far, the $1,780 that we spent, they were able to fix it without having to replace the motherboard. We also have the City Hall boiler that is actively failing. The boiler at City Hall has failed and needs a replacement pressure relief valve, which is another $1,300. And fortunately, we have a licensed plumber on staff in the building department who is going to do that replacement. In conclusion, these issues highlight why the facilities budget needs the additional funding. Without it, we risk falling behind on essential maintenance, potentially leading to even more expensive emergency repairs down the line. This appropriation ensures the City Hall and Legislative Building remain safe, operational, and accessible for employees and the public. Myself and the Mayor's office have been working diligently to maintain this property and achieve savings in every avenue possible.
Thank you, Mr. Vera. Questions from committee members?
Yeah.
Councilor Welchman.
Let Anthony go first.
Sure. Councilor President Torello.
Thank you. Just one question, and I know this is small numbers in the grand scheme of things, but given the budget year that we're in, the water bubbler,
Yeah.
is there any state statute that requires us to have that operational on the floor, or?
I don't believe so, but that's why we haven't fixed it yet.
Gotcha.
I have a sign currently on it that says that anyone that needs to refill their water bottles can go to the first or the third floor.
Right, and certainly I want all of our City Hall staff to have adequate hydration and so forth. I want it to be a good working environment. It's just, I have to ask, what's truly essential and what's moderately essential?
Absolutely. I just wanted to highlight those things so that way you knew what the ongoing failures and maintenance issues in these buildings are. They're very costly, and so we're doing our best to save money in any way possible.
Certainly, certainly. And with that answered, I just wanted that for my information. Obviously, we got into the situation of having to renovate City Hall in the first place by deferring maintenance for a decade or more. So whatever we need to do to be proactive, I'd rather do that than pay it down the road. I will yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Vera, could you go over with regard to the snow removal, what areas are we contracting for for these two buildings?
Yeah, currently it is all the sidewalks. So the sidewalks in front of the City Hall Legislative Building, all the paths around City Hall. They plow Wood Place. Okay. They plow the lower lot and the lot right behind, directly behind the Legislative Building. Okay. And then they salt as well.
Okay, and so the cost that you quoted, the $27,000?
Correct. That is
for all of the 9 storms that Commissioner Erickson was talking about?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bushman.
Number one, why are we plowing Wood Place, this private property?
Well, Wood Place was just
Right over here.
right. No, Wood Place is the entrance to
So why don't you just say
City
the parking
Hall.
lot right here?
So this lot behind us directly where you're probably parked, and then the lower lot, which is where all the city employees park.
You know, councilors, I'm going to tell you something. $27,000 to do 1, 2, 3. 3 lots, $27,000. We got a snow blower, so how in the hell does somebody hurt their back with a snow blower?
I mean,
I'm 74 years old. I use snow blowers all the storms.
Yep,
74.
slip
I don't
and falls
understand
happen.
this.
What is the question, Councilor?
Well, no, I'm upset. We're spending a lot of money here that we don't have. $27,000, Council. We should have hired somebody part-time. Christ, we get DPW workers and we subcontract at $150 an hour. This is crazy. It's crazy.
Let's. I have.
Well, I'm upset with the whole cost.
Let's stick to questions while we have Mr. Vera, and after the motion,
Listen,
we can deliberate.
How much would it cost to replace the doors over here instead of us paying $175 an hour? Plus, you just got done saying there's a good possibility they're going to break again.
So we're actively soliciting quotes to replace, we'll come up with, not replace the doors, but come up with a better hinge solution that's much more affordable, that can hold the capacity of those doors, because the load of those doors are pretty heavy. So we're looking on to replacing those hinges that also can only be worked on by one company. No other company can work on them. So we're looking to replace them for a better alternative.
You know what amazes me the most? We spent $25 million on this piece of property over here. $25 million.
Do you have any further questions for Mr.
My
Vera?
question is this, Mr. Chair. We spent a lot of money, and we're putting a lot more money into it for repairs. Where's the workmanship? That's my argument. Where's the workmanship? And we're not saying nothing. We're just saying, okay, it's okay. It's not okay. If you're paying for it, you get mad.
Do you have further questions for Mr. Vera? We can
Mr.
deliberate.
Chair, I'm not going to vote for this $35,000 override. I'm not giving somebody any more money to plow the driveways. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to vote for it, and I hope they use their heads and they don't give it either. That's a shame that we spent $27,000. A shame. And I'm upset because people work awful hard out there, and we think it's nothing. As councilors or leaders of the city.
Councilor Boschman, if you have further questions,
No, I don't.
encourage
I'm
you
just
to.
upset.
Okay. Councilor Kuchar.
Thank you. In regards to plowing Wood Place, my colleague from Ward 2 is correct. I mean, that is part of a private road. Have we gone to that, the property owner, to see if they can contribute anything?
We haven't explored that avenue. So the reason why they do plow Wood Place, because they, if they didn't, they couldn't get up to this lot.
I understand that.
They're not plowing their lot, though. It's just,
okay. So it's not.
It's just the street leading up.
All right. So we're not plowing the Wood Place lot.
We are not.
We're plowing our lot and a way to get up.
Correct.
Okay. I thought we were plowing their lot.
No, we are not.
Okay. I hope that relieves the gentleman from Ward 2's blood pressure right now.
I appreciate that, Councilor Kuchar. Are you all set?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Further questions from committee members? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. On the motion, Councilor Boschman, I know you have more to say.
I vote no. Oh, on the what? On the motion?
Now would be the time to express what you have to say.
Again, I will say what I say. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves when we're saying it's just okay for $25 million. Ashamed. And things don't last 10 years. Now we're down to 5 years. Really? Come on, councilors. Come on. I'm tight. and you own houses, you all own houses, and you know if that happens in your house, you be mad as hell. And I am mad. And I'm not paying that kind of money. I'm saying no on this thing.
Thank you, Councilor. Would you mind removing your motion? I got a little ahead of myself. I forgot to ask Mr. Vera some questions myself.
Withdraw the motion.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Vera, the boiler that you mentioned was failing. The valve was $1,300. I mean, the boiler was failing. It would be considerably more than $1,300 for that building.
Correct.
The boiler isn't necessarily failing. It's just the valve that failed.
Correct. And so if we don't replace the valve, then the boiler failed, and then we're looking upwards of $50,000 just to replace one boiler. I mean, they're you should go see them, very sophisticated, high-tech boilers.
Correct. So it's disappointing to hear that they haven't lasted as long as maybe they should.
Right.
The 3 employee injuries that you mentioned, was that last year or the previous year?
That was last year, our first year in administration.
And the fire panel has already been replaced, the $9,000.
Correct.
So this is money spent. So can you tell me the total that is needed for what we need to pay for now? What of the numbers that you gave is what we need to pay for still?
Let's see what we have. So we still have, I apologize, I didn't do the math on this. And just so that you know, the contracted service line item that I'm asking for this appropriation also covers our semi-annual sprinkler and fire alarm tests, all that stuff. So we still have about 19. We have between $15,000 in, tests, certifications, and repairs that haven't been made yet.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vera. Question for Mr. President?
Mr. President.
I'll wait until we've got the motion.
Do you have any further questions?
No questions. I want to make a motion to hold.
I'll renew my motion. Approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. We have a motion and a second on the table. Do we have comments on the motion to approve?
I want to make a comment. I'd like to have them come back to another meeting to the finance with an accurate amount of what we need to pay right now. I'm not going to pay for this stuff. I'm not going to do it until we know what we're paying for.
Okay. Further comments on the motion? President Zarella.
Thank you. 2 things. One is, yes, snow removal is very expensive, and I wish we didn't have to. But until and unless we have employees who are specifically hired with waivers in place for that type of physical labor, we can't risk the liability, because it's not impossible to injure yourself with a snowblower. I've come very close to doing it myself. If you're snow blowing and it turns out there's ice underneath the snow and your foot goes out from under you, that can easily be a broken arm, a broken hip, torqued ankle. And if we've got people doing that who have not specifically waived liability to the city for those types of tasks, we could be in quite a lot of trouble with those employees. That's not something we want. If there were a cheaper way to do it, if we had the budget to hire employees specifically for those job descriptions or something, that would be one thing, but I suspect that at the moment that would be less affordable than what we're currently doing. As far as the City Hall maintenance goes, yeah, I'm very disappointed that it hasn't lasted as well as it should have. But there's nothing we can do about that retroactively. We can't go back and demand a longer warranty from the original contractors. We can't go back to the original contractors and take them to court on something like that unless we can prove that it was some sort of negligence in the way they did things rather than just a product that failed sooner than its projected lifespan, which happens, unfortunately. And I doubt we can prove that. That's a tough thing to prove. So all we have in front of us right now is the option to either fix the problem or let it fester. And if we let it fester, A, it's going to cost more down the road. B, we're going to have spent all this money on these 2 nice new facilities, and they're going to get run down. They're going to stop being facilities that we can be proud of if we don't put the money in to keep them up. Believe me, if I could go back in time, look over the contracts that we had with the original contractors and say, we want you to warranty this out at least 5 or 10 years or something, and we could afford it within the budget that we had, because that jacks up the price, that would have been a worthwhile thing to look into. We didn't at the time. Now we've just got to deal with the situation we're in. And certainly I think these two buildings are valuable assets of the city, quite aside from the fact that we need them to function. I think they're also things the city can be proud of. I would like them to stay that way. So as much as I am upset that this money is needed, it's nothing we can do about, and frankly, just to be clear, nothing that this administration could have done anything about. You know, stuff fails. We can't control it. So I'm going to be in favor of this because I don't see another intelligent alternative to it. I just don't see how else we keep our buildings up without putting the money in, even if it really stinks that we have to. And with that, I will yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the comments from committee members, Councilor Kuchar.
Yes, first of all, I appreciate what Councilor Zarella said in regards to needing to keep up these properties. And I 100% agree with you. But I also see where Councilor Boschman is coming from. You know, Councilor Boschman made a comment that if something breaks in your house, you're going to get mad. Of course, that's accurate. But you know what? You suck up and fix it. What I'm not going to do is take out a loan for $30,000 when we need 15. So, I mean, I would be in agreement with Councilor Boschman's motion to hold until we get new numbers and, you know, approve that.
That's fair. Thank you, Councilor. Quick point, this would not be a loan. This is coming from available funds.
I realize that, but I'm just saying, for instance, why would we ask for $30,000 when we only need 12 or 15?
Councilor Boschman for the second time.
For the second time. Oh, for the second. On a rebuttal to to the man to my right.
Councilor?
I can bend over and pick up this piece of paper and I can hurt my back. Remember that. You can hurt your back no matter which way you. Some people hurt their back by sneezing. They hurt their backs. The job that we put out there for that job there was supposed to be done, and the person, the party, hurt their back. We have a snowblower. There's a snowblower that you run. It's all power. And probably an electric one, knowing government, where you plug it in and you just hit a button and it starts right up. So then you just put it in a gear and you drive it. There's nothing hard about the snowblower, because I run them. So when somebody says it's physical and man-made, it's not that bad, because the snowblower does most of the work. And sometimes you get stuck in a pile and you bring it back, reverse, and you walk forward again. What I don't understand about us, we have a DPW, and we're paying $27,000.
The DPW has expressed that this is something that they cannot take on. That we do need to contract out.
Well, you know what? They work for us. We don't work for them. I'm sorry, Nick. You work for us.
We all work for the city of Fitchburg and its residents.
And we got to do things to save money. And that's part of it. You could have hired a contractor at $150 to come up there and plow. And he could have did his job and looked and said, what took you so long? Instead of paying $27,000. That's a lot of money. If I would have known it, I would have put in for the job. But then I would have got hit with a conflict of interest.
That's correct. Are you all set, sir?
Yeah, I'm all set. I'm still upset.
Okay. All set. So I have some larger issues with beyond just the totals. And this is nothing towards you, Mr. Vera. I just find it incredibly challenging to believe that an individual already the chief of staff in the city of Fitchburg is a full-time position, could also be its facilities manager and handle parking enforcement. And that's what we're asking you to do. And I have concerns with the totals and also concerns, just like Mr. President here, that we need to take care of our assets and take care of the city with a separate facilities manager who can accurately spot these things on the fly, who has experience in HVAC, in mechanical work, all of those things, so that we don't run into future issues. And so I am actually inclined to vote this down as well until we can have some future numbers. It sounds like that would be a 3-2. So I would like to give the opportunity for my councilors to the right, if they'd like to rescind their motions, and we'll do a motion to hold, as the gentleman from Ward 2 suggested. Mr. President, for the second time.
Well, first, let the record show that I know how to operate a snowblower. I am quite familiar with this operation. My point was not that operating a snowblower is itself heavy labor, but rather that it is incredibly possible to injure yourself while doing so, not from a freak occurrence, but from an ordinary snow and ice accident. It's one thing if it happens at your house. No, you're not going to sue anyone over that. At least not if you want to keep your marriage happy. But if it happens on the job and it's not the job and it's not something that was in your initial job description, then we're in trouble. That said, I'm happy to hold this if we're not certain that the number is the correct number, because I agree, as convenient as it may be to build in a cushion for future expenses and not have to come back to the council, I'm happy to take it up as things come up. And I think that, speaking for myself anyway, as I hope made very clear, any expense that comes up that actually is necessary, I'll fund it, no problem when it gets brought before us. I do, and I've said this before, I'll echo the chair's comments, including the part that it has nothing to do with Mr. Vera specifically. I do have some concerns regarding our facilities management solely due to the lack of subject-specific expertise. That's all. Nothing to do with personal, nothing to do with character or diligence, but at the same time, at the moment, I'm not sure I see a viable alternative given our budgetary situation. So I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I'm concerned. On the other hand, I do respect the fact that Mr. Vera has stepped up to save the city money on this and is doing his best. At the moment, I think that's a problem that we'll have to wait for another day. But that said, I'm fine with holding this if it's the will of the remainder of the committee.
We have Councillor Walsh for a second time if you're all set.
All set.
Yeah, thank you. Since my husband had shoulder surgery at the end of January, I'm more than painfully aware of how difficult it is to run a snowblower. And I'm not 74, but I'm pretty close. But I am more than happy to withdraw my motion to approve and amend it to a motion to hold.
We have a motion.
I'll second
a motion to hold and a second. Do we have any objections to holding?
Nope.
Seeing none, it is unanimously held. Thank you, Mr. Vera. All right. We now have 026-25, order the City of Fitchburg hereby appropriates from available funds the sum of $105,000 to be credited to Law, Other Expenses Labor Negotiator, Law, Other Expenses Litigation Special Counsel. I'm not exactly sure. Please step up and introduce yourself.
Hello. Hi, Brittany Fish, Interim Director of HR.
Oh, hi. I'm so sorry.
No, I think it's fine. No, go ahead.
So we come before you today to strongly advocate for the appropriation of $100,000 for our labor negotiator. The city of Fitchburg is currently in mediation with 2 labor unions and will soon enter negotiations with 4 more. These discussions are critical, especially given the city's ongoing financial crisis. Simply put, we cannot afford to make costly concessions in these negotiations. The city does not have the financial capacity to meet the full demands of these unions, and without professional negotiation, we risk agreements that could further strain our already limited resources. This $100,000 investment is a proactive and fiscally responsible measure. Hiring a labor negotiator will ensure that the city negotiates agreements that are fair to our employees while also being sustainable for Fitchburg's financial future. To put it in perspective, this appropriation is significantly less than what it would cost the city to grant even a fraction of what our unions are requesting. In times of financial hardship, every dollar matters. Spending wisely now on a professional labor negotiations will protect the city's long-term financial health, prevent greater financial burdens down the road, and ensure that we are making decisions in the best interest of all Fitchburg residents.
Thank you, Mr. Verdi. Do we have questions from committee members? President Zarella.
So I do sort of wish that we had members of the legal department here just to, because I am not, I am an attorney. I am not at all a labor attorney. I'm not familiar with whether this is a typical cost for a labor negotiator, whether this is mid-range, high range. But I will say almost every year that I've been on the council, we've made remarks in passing on, we've got to get better deals from our labor negotiations and so forth. And as much as I'm getting a bit of sticker shock on this, given that it is in some senses not an essential operation of the city. In other words, the city would continue functioning without this expenditure. I'm still inclined to say, if this is what it costs to be sure that we are getting a deal that is both fair and manageable, then I guess my only question is this, what sort of labor negotiator are we hiring? In other words, I guess is all I can ask. I don't know how to put it more clearly than that. Are we hiring someone to come in as, for lack of a better term, an attack dog and balance the budget by sticking it to our employees, which I don't think we're doing, but I want to hear it on the record, as opposed to someone who is just going to lay out our case in a cogent manner and find workable common ground. Are we hiring a competitive negotiator or a collaborative negotiator is basically what I want to know.
I think it's a little bit of both based off my experience. We're really starting to look long term, and that's where the investment is for us. Long term, building stronger contracts, making sure that we're negotiating items that aren't going to have to be renegotiated because we didn't have council present, keeping things fair for the city as well as the employee. Because I think we all know that the city's in a financial crisis, as we've put it, right? And we have a lot of hard conversations when we can't offer any monetary items during negotiations, and that's really where we're at and what we're up against. So having council present, we're able to, come up with creative solutions. They have a lot of experience across the board negotiating, right? So they can bring other things to the table from other negotiations that are non-monetary. So we're just really, trying to look at everything from every angle and just make sure that, we can offer something during negotiations.
Right.
Rather than come to the table with, sorry, we don't have any money, right?
Right, and honestly, that's the phrase I was, I think, subconsciously looking for is creative solutions.
Right.
If this is the price of finding creative solutions that allow us to do right by our employees while also balancing the budget, then it seems like a smart investment. I'll yield the floor.
Councilor Boschman.
Can I ask Jackie a question?
Yeah, of course.
Jackie, is this coming out of free cash?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes, these,
So I'll put it more plainly to you than Anthony puts it. I want to be able to do my dishes. I gave away the kitchen sink, and I can't do the dishes. The dishes are over here, and I get no sink to do them. So I'm looking for somebody that's going to be, like he said, fair, very fair, but fair here and this way, because I got to think of 42,000 residents that are watching us very closely and making sure they can afford to live too. So as long as I can get back the kitchen sinks, or I can put the Dove in there and help my wife do the dishes, I'm all fine with that. That's what
Yeah,
I'm looking
and, we are working together to just, learn more about the negotiating process so we can, go in confident to these things and make sure that, the messages that we're delivering are legal and appropriate. But, when we go into negotiations, like I said, and we can't really offer any monetary, value there, and we have to start thinking outside the box, that's when it gets tricky. And that's when we need the support and the protection that can offer the city as well as the employees.
Okay. So, so Jackie, one other question, Jackie. I want to make very clear. I'm going to probably support this because we need more professional help, to be honest with you, for what I have seen for the last contracts that we've been into. But I'm going to be watching the free cash very, very closely. Because I'm not just going to keep on digging on it, because there's many things that we need for the city to function right, and equipment that we need, personal equipment that we need. So I'll support this. I'm in favor of this.
You have further questions for
No, that's it. I yield the floor. I'm sorry about that. I was addressing my question to her.
Have we already picked the labor negotiator?
Yes, we are currently working with the labor negotiator that we've been working with for several years. So they're very familiar with the city and the city's challenges. They've been with us through the past, few negotiations that I've been privy to. So
Is this typically what we have paid in the past?
I can't really speak to that based off my experience and where I sit right now. But I would imagine that it is, being that, in years past, we've been able to offer money, right? So that always makes negotiations easier. And it's easier to sit at the table when you can offer money. But now with where the city is at, we've had to pull council in a little bit more consistently. And that's also, we also have other issues going on outside of negotiations, like we have employee labor matters, and, there are other things that factor in outside of just contract negotiations that we have to account for, too.
Is that what the $5,000 is for, too?
The $5,000 is for workers' compensation. We have employees that are out on workers' compensation, and from time to time we have to, hire counsel to go in and support us when there are hearings with regards to continuing or discontinuing benefits. So there's a whole lot of moving parts there, too, that we utilize counsel for at times, but it is not as much as our labor attorneys.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the laws and the requirements of workers' compensation. Is that something the city solicitor does, or this is special counsel it says?
So right now it's special counsel.
Okay.
I am not really, I know the city solicitor from a labor attorney standpoint, they're not really staffed to handle our labor needs right now. I don't know if that's the same case for workers' compensation. Definitely, something we could explore. Fair question to ask. I haven't asked it, and I'm not really sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kuchar. And just as you said, this is not a change. We have historically always done labor negotiation and special counsel in those regards. And when we brought on Meade, Tellem, and Acosta, they were very upfront that they would not be in negotiations.
No, I'm aware, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. And Oliver Cronin just shared some things with me as well regarding what we have. We have 2 current contract negotiations open and 4 on deck this July. So we've got quite a bit coming up, and the numbers are are comparable to what we've done. It's just there's a lot on the horizon. These will be, as most negotiations are, they will be long-standing negotiations with quite a bit of back and forth that we will need considerable counsel on, as we have always done in the past. Having said that, does anyone have any further questions for our?
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept. Seeing no objections, it is unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk to you after. Talk to you after.
We are going to go back to the first item on the agenda that we skipped, as it all relates to Director Murphy. Thank you for joining us, Director Murphy, Executive Director of Community Development. We're going to go to 018-25. Order the City of Fitchburg hereby approves the transfer of $5,000 within Community Development Block Grant Year 45 COVID-19 funds to COVID rent and utility assistance from the following accounts: Pandemic Legal Assistance, $1,328.27, and COVID Grant Administration, $3,671.73. You may remember, I believe this is what we held previously regarding Councilor Boschman's question about conflicts of interest. Director Murphy.
Correct. So thank you for holding this while I found out the answer. So I did speak to Solicitor Meade last week, and we went over the issue, and she said it is not a conflict, similar to how landlords can accept Section 8 and participate in that kind of program, even though they benefit from it. It's not a conflict. As long as there's a legitimate, eligible tenant and the actual rent is legitimately due and they qualify for the program is really helping the participant. The fact that they happen to be the landlord, if that is the case, and I don't actually know that they've ever paid their own for their own tenant, or assisted their own tenants, I should say, but they can if they need to, according to City Solicitor Meade.
Thank you, Director Murphy. We had quite a bit of chatter on this last time. Does anyone have further questions, or are we ready for a motion?
Oh, she answered my question.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Seeing no objection, we'll take this under unanimous consent. It is approved. We are going to go on to a little bit of the heavy lifting for this meeting. We've already been at work for an hour and a half now. Does everybody want to power right through this? Would anyone like a brief recess?
Nope. Can you take a couple-minute break?
We can. We'll take a 5-minute recess, and I mean it, 7:33, everybody.
All right.
Welcome back to the Finance Committee meeting. We are on to our final agenda item. It is communication. It's a proposed action plan for Community Development Block Grant Year 51. So what we're going to do, there's quite a bit here, so we're going to do a brief rundown of each of them as we go item to item. And if councilors, if you would like to get into any of the items that you have questions about with Director Murphy, or you have concerns, we'll do it that way. If not, we'll try and keep it moving. Starting up is Project A. This is under Public Facilities and Improvements. It is the West Main Street Paving and Sidewalk Reconstruction. The proposed project will include design and construction of new ADA-compliant sidewalks along the westbound shoulder of Main Street between approximately 1157 Main and Caldwell Park, and along with ADA-compliant crosswalk near the Greek Church, ADA-compliant crosswalk near the Yarn Lofts, and a mill and overlay of Main Street between Boulder and the Upper Common at the intersection with West Street, Ashburn Hill Road. If funding allows, the sidewalk on the eastbound shoulder of Main Street between the intersection with West Street, Ashburnham Hill Road, and Caldwell Street will also be reconstructed. Do we have questions or concerns for committee members? President Zarella.
Just one quick question. What is the rationale behind funding this at $26,000 more than the request? Is there a change in the project since the request was submitted, or?
Thank you, President Zarella. The Community Development recommended $150,000. The mayor is asking for $176,000.
Correct, and I was just going to add that was the mayor had approached me, said she had an extra $26,000 from another project. I don't know what that project was. She wanted to apply it to a project that she thought could use it, and certainly we can use it. For this particular project, it means less that we'll have to pull out of Chapter 90 to supplement that gap that we need to fund.
Okay, makes sense. Just wanted to know the rationale.
Okay.
Councilor Boschman.
I got no problem with it, but I did highlight it. I just want to make one thing. If we're doing West Street, no offense to you, I don't mind doing sidewalks, but we're not doing sidewalks to park cars on brand new sidewalks. If you can tell me that we're going to enforce the rules on that, I can understand maybe in the wintertime and they're trying to get their cars off the road, but during the summertime, totally unacceptable.
I mean, these sidewalks will have a nice 6-inch curb reveal or so. It'll be tough to park on the sidewalk. I personally don't enforce parking, so I can't necessarily guarantee you that. So I'm not going to guarantee you something that I can't follow through on.
Can I ask you something about the reveal? Why do we just pick 6 inches? I know there's some places in some other communities, they discourage parking on the sidewalk. Their reveals are really like 7 or 8 inches, and I know when I read something that you can put them up that high.
Yeah, you can put it up that high. Usually you shoot between like 4 and 8 inches is pretty standard. 6 is right in the middle there. The limiting factor a lot of times is just the grades that you have to work with. So, for example, along the sidewalk that exists that we're talking about reconstructing, you've got all those door sill elevations and you've got those walkways and stairways and all that. That dictates kind of how much that curb reveal can actually be. So you can only have a maximum 2% cross slope on the sidewalks. So if you come out the door sill elevation, you've got a certain vertical distance that you need to keep for a step in order to meet building code. Then you've got that 2% cross slope to the front of the sidewalk, and then you've got your curb reveal down to the pavement elevation. So working with that existing pavement elevation and the door sill elevations dictates what that curb reveal is typically.
Okay.
Councilor Kuchar.
Thank you. As the gentleman from Ward 2 suggested, this is in my ward. No offense taken, Councilor. But I have to say I'm very happy to see this come across. My family goes to the Greek church. There's a lot of elderly people that go to that church, and a crosswalk would be very nice to have there, as well as, I used to live on West Street, and even back in 2011 when I moved, the sidewalks needed to be done there. So this is long overdue. My question to you is, are we going to be able to put up the flashing crosswalk signs? Because it can get kind of treacherous with people coming up as people are trying to cross in front of the Greek church.
Yeah, the goal is to install 2 sets of those RRFBs, one at the Greek church and one at a crossing for the Yarn Lofts. As we get through final design and costing this all out, if we run into a situation where it costs too much to build and we just don't have the money, those would probably be the first things to cut because they can be added at a later date. But right now the intent is to add those into the plan.
Thank you. No further questions.
We're going to just move on through the regular rest of public facilities and improvements. The next project B, is city park sign replacement through Parks and Recreation. The community development recommend $15,000. The mayor is seeking $15,000, the same number. Purpose is to create uniformity and provide the names and locations of the parks in the city. Questions and concerns from committee members? Councilor Kuchar.
I mean, I was hoping that I would see more for Parks and Recreations in regards to upgrading our parks. I know I've been in contact with the director of the parks. He does have plans to go, to repair some of the parks, specifically in Ward 3. But hey, if we can at least do something to improve our parks, this is good.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We do have some upkeep and some maintenance, and we do need some new signage. I think that the CDBG is very supplemental. I shouldn't say supplemental. It's very important, but it is a supplemental addition that we do get to have. So every little bit helps, I think. President Torello.
I know every year we discuss this, and every year I forget the exact numbers. I know there is a limit to what percentage of the CDBG funding can go towards municipal projects. There is not? I was under the understanding.
There's a limit to how much can go towards admin, that's 20%. Mm-hmm. And there's a limit to how much can go towards public services, that's a 15% cap.
Gotcha.
And of course, we have to be careful that we are not using CDBG to replace sort of normal conduct of government. So that's why it's important that it's a supplement. It expands what we can do. It adds on. It's supplanting existing city funding for anything.
All right. Thank you for the explanation. That supersedes my follow-up question, so I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seeing no further questions from committee members, we'll move on to D of public facilities and improvements. This is going to go to the school department for the Crocker Grandstand restoration. The recommendation is $30,000 from both community development and the mayor. Does anyone have any questions regarding the grandstand restoration?
What do they plan on doing?
It's right there, Councilor. Project will include restoration work in the covered grandstand, including replacement of remaining rotted cracked benches, replacement of 41 concrete brackets that support the benches, removal or replacement of deteriorated concrete in the seating area, and sealing of concrete cracks in the seating area.
Very good. I'm all in favor of it.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the...
Make a motion we accept A, B, and D.
A, B, and D. A motion and a second. Seeing no objections, public facilities and improvements are approved. Moving on to public services. E, street outreach through the Fitchburg Health Department. Recommendations are $20,000 and $20,000 from community development and the mayor. Outreach activities will be conducted to include street outreach engagement with the unsheltered population, providing direct referrals and connections to shelter, medical and mental health substance abuse treatment, permanent housing, etc. Questions from committee members?
I do have some questions.
Sure. We have Director Curry here to come and answer those questions. Thank you for joining us, Director Curry. Councilor Belshman.
Steve, question is, a couple of months ago, probably approximately a year ago, Sue Kristen stood right where you are, and the council asked that could we get like a every 6 months report of how things were going with the homeless population and everything else, and yet to this day we haven't got anything to verify or even have her come up in front of us and talk to us about the homeless population and what's going on and how if it's improving, disproving, or what, I understand what I'm saying?
I do, and CDBG requires us to do quarterly reports, so it's something I can certainly share with you.
Okay, now, the street outreach program, correct me if I'm not, they work out of the senior citizen building, am I right or wrong?
That is correct.
All right. Well, I asked you some questions, and my questions to be Liz, too. Do we donate any money to the senior center for the use of their rooms, the use of their electricity, and their heat? I'll pay rent, like.
I wouldn't say it's a donation, but as part of the community foundation grant, which funds the warming center, yes, we do fund the usage of the senior center, $500 a month.
$500 a month, and how many
Correct.
people?
But these funds in CDBG have nothing to do with salaries or anything like that. The CDBG funds are strictly for supplies and expenses that are utilized for our homeless population, hygiene kits, personnel needs. Apples and oranges, I think. I just want to make that clear.
Apples and oranges? All right, so you're telling me that...
I think there's some confusion between several grants.
Yeah, well...
This one funds expenses, supplies.
Oh, this one here is just expenses?
Yes.
All right, okay, sorry about that, Steve.
That's okay.
I yield the floor.
Further questions? I do just want to make a brief comment on this because we do have a considerable amount of concern regarding our unhoused population and what we're doing. And, you know, whatever is happening at the federal level, this is the manner in which we deal with it is very humane. It balances integrity and human rights and does our best to solve the issue as best we can in that regard. The last thing we want is to end up like Atlanta, who literally just bulldozed an unhoused person and killed them when they bulldozed through their encampment. So that's the last thing that I would want to see here in our community, and I'm totally in favor of it. Moving on. Fitchburg Farmers Market growing places, $7,000 recommended by both community development and the mayor. Farmers Market is fairly straightforward. We do have someone on Zoom to discuss this with us from Growing Places. So Dan and I will hand it over to them.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can.
It's really evening, but I never say evening, huh? It's out of protocol. So thank you for recommending the farmers market for funding and to the mayor and to the planning committee. The Fitchburg Farmers Market has been in operation for a number of years. It had had a dip during COVID for many, many reasons, and we have been working to revitalize it over the past few years. I'm really happy to report that we had so many vendors at our last farmers market, which in the wintertime is at the Fitchburg Art Museum, that we actually didn't have enough space to accommodate them all. So I feel as if the Fitchburg Farmers Market is on the upswing, which is what we wanted to see. So I just wanted to share that, you know, this continued funding allows us to offer the market free to vendors, and it's really showing that it's making a difference. And we'd also move the market from a weekly market to a once a month because we found that to be successful in other communities, so people can use their SNAP and their Healthy Incentive Program benefits still. It's on a once a month basis that they replenish those HIP benefits. And we've actually, with once a month, had more people attending the market. And so I think what we'd like to do this year is to continue at the market and keep it at one location. The one thing that we've heard, you know, is the market has changed locations over the years for many different reasons, but I think it works really well at the Fitchburg Art Museum, and we don't have to cancel it on poor weather days. So what we would like to do this year is continue it year-round at the Fitchburg Farmers Market on first Thursdays.
Thank you. Questions from committee members? Councilor Zarella.
I just want to say, you know, I'm always banging the drum for small business in the city of Fitchburg. And I think it's important to remember that this is small business. You don't have to have a sign out front of your building or something to be a small business. So this strikes me as very short money to spend to support a very worthwhile endeavor. And I'm all in favor. Yield the floor.
Thank you.
Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Ann for being here tonight and for Growing Places for all that they do. This is just one of the many things that they do, and I just want to say that we appreciate it. So thank you.
Further questions? Not seeing any. I have one of myself, and I do want to echo the comments of Councilor Walsh. Growing Places has been a terrific partner and does an incredible amount on very little, with very little. You mentioned that we had to turn away vendors because we didn't have enough room. Was that it?
Yes, so we've never had this problem before as we've been doing the Fitchburg Farmers Market indoors at the Art Museum. And so we actually weren't aware that there was a cap. And so they they shared right before the market that there was a cap, and we had a few extra vendors, and we actually had to tell them that there is a cap. And I think moving forward, we met with them after and had a conversation just to talk about space. But in the summertime, when the market's really flourishing, we're looking to also have indoor and outdoor space. So I think there will be plenty of room. But if the market does get to be so big that we're not able to accommodate vendors, as Councillor Zarella said, we want to accommodate small businesses as much as we want to increase access for our consumers. It's equal. And so we will make sure that we're able to do that. And so just know that we will continue to be vigilant about how many vendors that get turned away. But hopefully we have resolved that and we'll be able to accommodate more moving forward.
Thank you. In the past, I know there was some concern with doing it in the common, regarding parking and sort of the logistics with
always,
people
yes,
driving around. And I know I've made this suggestion in the past, but, we've got a big, beautiful, almost brand new park over Riverfront Park that would be perfect for the farmers market. So if we can, if we have the outside in the space and we don't need to cap it, I think that would be a wonderful place to put our farmers market.
One thought, we've had the Fitchburg Farmers Market at Riverfront. The thing is that the people coming from the housing area across, when they're crossing Main Street and then Boulder Drive, they need to cross two streets is the issue, because a lot of them are coming, either with walkers or accessible mobility devices, and so I wonder if there is a way to work with the police or just to make a pathway that makes it safe for them to be able to get over there. That's my only concern about having the market at Riverfront Park again. So just so you know, that is the only reason.
Okay. No, that's a good reason. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Councillor Boschman.
Did I hear you say the $7,000 is to allow vendors to go in for free?
Yes, because most markets charge a vendor fee, and by doing this, it allows us to pay for the market manager, and it also helps to pay for our youth leaders to help at the market, and so that is what the $7,000 pays for.
But the vendors make money when they sell their products. Am I right or wrong?
They don't make a lot of money, Counselor. So they are small businesses, as was alluded to before, and so it's cost prohibitive. A lot of times what we see is that when we reduce the fee or eliminate the fee when people come in, it creates a low threshold. So when these small entrepreneurs who are usually just starting out, they are able to access the market without having, funds that they have to expend. But what we see is that we always think the most successful outcome for the vendors is actually when they graduate from the market and they go to like a retail space, or they're able to. So this really allows those kind of micro enterprises who don't have a lot of capital to begin to be able to access the market and grow.
The only reason why I asked that question, a long time ago when I was in my younger ages, I had to get a peddler's license to sell what I wanted to. Then I had to get a license from the city of Fitchburg for another $50 to sell in Fitchburg. And the city of Fitchburg didn't really care if I was a small businessman or not. They just wanted their $50. I'm not putting down the city, it's only properly right, but I'm just saying that I had to pay $50. To say that we're giving $7,000 away for a vendor to make a living.
No, we're not. No, Counselor, just to clarify, they're still paying for their Board of Health license. We pay for a Board of Health license at growing places. They pay their hawkers and peddlers. This is for the market management. You actually have to pay a person to coordinate all this, and that is what typically the fee to the actual farmers market is. So the city's not giving up any funds, just so you know. It's supporting the coordination of the market.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, good point.
President Zarella.
So, yeah, and that's the thing. One of the biggest barriers to new small businesses is the cost of market entry. The stuff that you have to pay to get off the ground. This just helps us to make sure that we're not adding an additional burden on top of the licenses that they have to pay for and the inspections and everything. We're just saying, assuming you're all paid up on all your other stuff, you can come here and sell your wares and we're not going to charge you extra for it, which for someone trying to get off the ground, let's say we were to rescind this and charge them a fee to participate at the market. For us, it would be $7,000 that we could reprogram somewhere else, which in the scale of city budget doesn't get us much. But if that's an additional whatever it is, I don't know the total number of vendors, so I can't do the math and divide it out. But if that were an additional $50 or $100 or something that each vendor has to pay, that's cutting into what's already usually going to be a very narrow profit margin. And it might make the difference between them being able to have a profitable day at the market or a day where they just break even, or even a day when they don't sell quite as much as they expect and they find out that they spent money to go to the market. If we can help them get off the ground by contributing those relatively small amounts of free real estate, so to speak, that only helps our local entrepreneurs and our local economy, who, if they do succeed, eventually end up, as was mentioned, moving into retail spaces, becoming successful businesses, paying taxes to the city, or bringing business into the city. It's a win-win in my book. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any further comments or questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on to H now. Thank you, Ann, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Actually, let's entertain a motion to approve E and F, since we have Ann here with us.
What?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of E and F.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve E and F. Seeing no objections?
No objection on that
They're
one.
approved. Okay. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Moving on to H in Public Services, this is the Fitchburg Community Policing Project. This will add to increasing community policing efforts in the downtown and surrounding community development block grant area. Mostly foot patrols, but often just maybe bicycles, motorcycles, or patrol vehicles. Community Development recommended $20,000. The mayor has recommended $40,000. We have with us Chief Giannini. Chief.
Good evening. These funds would basically allow us to cover Main Street and the rail trail when the weather gets nicer. Obviously, the businesses on Main Street are very important to the financial future of this city. They cover lower Main Street around the intermodal area all the way up to Rise and Grind and everything in between. We do not have staffing to have regular presence on Main Street right now. These funds would allow us to do so. I believe, just rough math, 150, 160 separate 4-hour deployments over the course of the nice weather that we would have an officer on Main Street where we typically would not.
You got a question?
Councilor Walsh.
Thank you. I noticed that the recommended, the request and the recommended is $20,000, and the mayor's recommending $40,000. And I guess I'm also looking at
The rail trail.
J, which is the recommended is 10, and the mayor's recommending 5. And I guess J deals with the Fitchburg Homelessness Prevention Project. In my day job, I am confronted with a number of elderly people who are facing homelessness because of rent increases, evictions because the landlord is selling the building and they want to move the tenants out so they can renovate the building and charge more rent, or they just want an elderly person out of there so they can charge more rent to somebody else. And I was wondering if we could, I would recommend, if it's not going to impinge on your ability to carry out your duties with regard to Project H, if we could take $5,000 from there and move it to J. That would be my recommendation.
How, President Zarell, help me out here. How would this, we would need a motion for that at all, or?
Well, because this is only a communication and not actual orders, we can make pretty much whatever motion on it we want, and it would just be essentially a non-binding resolution saying the council urges the mayor to do. That's really all of what we're doing tonight is saying either the council thinks the mayor's plan is good, or the committee thinks the mayor's plan needs changing. But we're not actually doing anything binding tonight.
Okay.
So it would just take an ordinary motion to say, cut this by this much, raise this by this much. Normally we can't raise, but because it's just a non-binding recommendation. We can say, raise it by this much.
Okay. Do I have a motion to remove $5,000? Yes, President.
Can I just say, I mean, I just want to ask the chief if would $35,000 allow you to carry out what's mentioned here, or is it, I mean, the request is 20, and the
Right,
recommended
initially we
is
had
20.
requested 2 projects. One of the projects got no funding at all, so this project did get more than initially requested. I certainly have nothing negative to say about the J. I don't know a ton about J, and honestly, I didn't prepare to talk about J. I can say $40,000 will definitely help us go a long way. If the council chooses to reduce that a little bit, that's your prerogative. But as the department head of the police department, I'm going to fight for the police department, if that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
So just for the viewing public, Councilor Walsh is suggesting that we take $5,000 away from the Fitchburg Community Policing Project and add it to J in public service, the Fitchburg Homelessness Prevention Project through Community Legal Aid as that sponsor. $5,000 we would take from that to make it $10,000, which is the recommendation from Community Development, the original number. That project will provide thorough and comprehensive legal outreach and advocacy to Fitchburg's low-income and elderly renters.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Bush.
Madam Council Walsh, you don't mind if we go through this? I guarantee you that I'll make a suggestion for $5,000 cut to go into the legal aid. I give you my word on that. There are some things in here that should be cut that I think should be cut.
I would have no problem if we found $5,000 somewhere else. I certainly don't want to take $5,000 that's going to be utilized by the Fitchburg Police Department if we can find $5,000 elsewhere. I just think that community legal aid is something that we really need especially for elderly people. Once they get the notice for eviction, they can't afford an attorney. They can't afford to pay their rent, now they can't afford an attorney.
Just one sec. We have Councilor Kuchar first.
Well, I'm not even done talking yet.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You talk too much. So I refer people to community legal aid all the time when discussing, finances and whatnot. And there are people that need help, but I don't agree with taking it out of the police budgets. I think there's many other things that we could cut in this and leave what has been designated to the police. The last thing I want to do is take money away from the police where it could go to help the community and safety. But so I think we should find the money somewhere else. I don't think we should take that $5,000.
Thank you, Councilor. President Zarella.
I'll make a motion that we defer. Well, no, if we're going to find it elsewhere, then we'll find it elsewhere.
We'll find it elsewhere. I promise you we will.
Yeah.
I already know.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve H, Fitchburg Community Policing Project.
I'll make that motion.
I get the chief to ask a couple of questions.
My apologies, Councilor Bush.
For the chief.
I'll withdraw.
I understand the 2 projects you're going to take care of. You're going to take care of Main Street, and we're going to take care of the rail trail. The rail trail I don't know too much about, only what I hear from people talking a lot of things, and there's problems down there. People loitering and everything. My problem is Main Street. For 10 years, we've been complaining about Main Street. As I sit on this council, we complained about Main Street for 10 years. Again, today, driving up Main Street, parked my car, get out, went to the architect, get in my car, took a right on Pridger Street. People hanging around. People don't like people hanging around. They're not spending money. They're hanging around, and they're 5 feet from the guy's business. How does somebody make a business if you got people hanging around? You can't do it because people are afraid to go in. They're afraid. They're literally afraid. They're not going to get attacked, but they're literally afraid to go in. When I went on strike, you guys always said, you got to keep moving. But yet, downtown, they can just hang. I don't understand the difference. And I don't understand why we're not enforcing the rules. Because downtown is a business district. It isn't a place to hang around and smoke cigarettes and crack jokes and yell and scream right next to a business.
Do you have a
So
question?
I'll support you, Chief, if you tell me that you're going to make sure the people move.
Well, I'm not going to use the words, I'm going to make sure people move. I tell you that the business district in Main Street is important to me. I agree with you. I think it's a long time coming that we have more presence on Main Street. These funds will allow us to do so. People can walk on public sidewalks, and people can stop and rest on public sidewalks for periods of time. If they're affecting businesses, we certainly move them along. If they're sitting next to a business that's closed at 10 at night, we might drive by and not move them along.
That I have no problem if they're closed and you're just in there. That's not my problem.
Sure.
My problem is the business hours. Every study that we have received, you read it, I read it, people claim, and I know it's not as bad as they claim, but they claim they're afraid to go downtown because of just that, people hanging around.
I mean, I'll use the intermodal, for example, Counselor. We've had some complaints about the intermodal. We now have officers stopping in at the intermodal, every officer on day shift stopping in there at least once during his or her shift. So when we see these problems, we try to address these problems. Again, these funds will allow them to address them even more so.
Okay, I'm going to support this, members of the council, but I'm also going to tell the chief that when I drive up Main Street during the summer, if I see people hanging around next year when he comes in front of me, it's not that I'm against the police. I'm just going to say I'm sorry. If you can't do anything, I can't do anything either.
If you see someone committing a crime on Main Street,
I would definitely call you.
Call us and we'll come over.
All right. Go ahead.
Councilor Kuchar. Let Councilor Zarella go next. Councilor Zarella.
Thank you. We may be about to make the same point. I'm not sure. There is actually a case directly on point regarding what could essentially be called move along ordinances or orders and so forth. You have to have something more specific than just you're standing around making people uncomfortable. Otherwise, it's just arbitrary, and you can't have, not that I would have any problem trusting our police department with that authority, but in general, you can't give police departments the authority to just arbitrarily decide you need to move, you can stay, because you look sketchy and you look, respectable. So I'm sure that our police department does everything they can to move people along who are actually causing a problem. But if it's just that someone's standing somewhere and people are uncomfortable with them standing there, that's not something they can do anything about.
Thank you, Councilor. The word loitering is tossed around a lot, but loitering is a very difficult thing to prove and enforce. So I appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, President Zarella. Councilor Kuchar, would you like to go, or should we entertain a motion?
No, I'll go. Is there any way that we can increase the scope of the patrol, Chief?
As long as it's within the CDBG area.
Okay.
Yes.
Would that include like River Street?
Yeah. I don't know if it's all of River Street, but certainly parts of River Street.
I'm talking about like River Street going down to like the Rotary, because I do see, there's activity down by the gas station, Sullivan's Liquors, the marijuana establishment, Cumberland Farms, and I know there's recently been, looks like a trailer.
A blue light.
Around, because obviously they're having crime issues.
Are you referring to the one at CVS?
No, there's also one down at Cumberland Farms.
Cumberland Farms, just when they Cumberland Farms too now.
Those are not ours.
I kind of figured they're not ours, but obviously that's a sign that there's...
People see a blue light and they assume that it's ours, but
yeah,
they're not.
I kind of figured because I did some research on where these come from, and it looks like they're purchased by the business owner.
Correct.
But obviously that it would indicate that there's some criminal activity that's, not being captured.
I would agree. I won't use the word limit, but we tend to focus on Main Street primarily because we want these officers on foot. The whole reason they're out there is to actually talk to people, not just drive by a problem area. I don't know how practical it is to walk out to Cumberland Farms at the Rotary. We could certainly employ a cruiser into it where they drive to different areas and get out and walk.
Well, you're talking also
and I'm certainly
about
open to that, but I'm just saying
bicycles and
primarily for
motorcycles,
patrol
too.
bicycles. Right.
If you're talking about a bicycle, I mean, going down to the Rotary on the bicycle would be
Agreed.
all of about 5 minutes.
Agreed.
Or even a motorcycle would be even quicker. So, you know, if you're talking about that, I would kind of like to see the area increase a little bit more. But I like the project. I have no issues with the project. I'm glad it's getting the funding that it is.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
And we can
Councilor.
certainly
I have
explore
one
that.
kind of out there question. I do like the community engagement stuff, and you just mentioned it. Last year, we did a small amount for a boxing club. I believe it was through the police department. Is that club still running?
You did a small what?
It was a boxing club?
Boxing club? Yeah, I remember
That was ARPA funding.
That was ARPA. I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Liz. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the $40,000 recommendation?
So moved.
So moved.
All right. Seeing no objections, it is approved. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Council.
Moving on to I, the Family Homeless Shelter. Sponsor here is through North Star Family Services. The recommendations from both Community Development and the Mayor are $10,000. Do we have any questions or concerns regarding I, the homeless shelter?
Aye, right here. I get a question on I.
Councilor Boschman.
How you been? Pretty good? That's good. Listen, I got a question for you. How many people from Fitchburg now in your place? And two questions first. One of them I'm going to ask. I don't understand when we say homeless people, when Raft has been in effect for what, 2 to 3 years? Raft, and they pay most of everybody's rent after you're behind to get caught up because they don't want to see people get evicted. Mm-hmm. So how many people do you have from the city of Fitchburg in your locations?
I'd have to double check that because I didn't check it today, but I know last year, when you look at the whole year, half of what the folks that we served were Fitchburg and half were Leominster and others. Out of 21 families that came through successfully through the program, 12 found permanent housing. So not quite 50%, but, you know, with how it is for apartments, you know, to find an apartment, even if you do have funding through a raft or other types of programs, you can't find a place to live. That's the crisis that's out there. It's part of the reason why we started our Journey Home program. We're building some affordable housing right down the street from the
Right,
shelter.
I know that. I saw that in the paper a while ago.
15 units. It'll be done, and families will move in around July 4th. So that's why we came up with that solution. That's been a 7-year project. I've been working with Liz on this. It's been a tough road, but the shelter is always going to be needed in our region. We prioritize Fitchburg and Leominster. That we call that our you know, the Twin Cities are connected at the hip, even if we want it or we don't want it. It's just how people go back and forth, left and right. So we prioritize it. To run the shelter costs about $500,000 a year. All donations, all grants.
Okay, my question to you is, the people from Fitchburg that you claim that go down there about half, did they give you some of the reasons why they became homeless? Because they lived somewhere else and they had to get evicted or something. Something happened.
Yeah, when folks come to us, something happened and then they're desperate. You know, they're traumatized. They're living in a car, or they're living in with a tent or whatnot, you know, abandoned buildings. There was years ago, the shelter used to be here in Fitchburg.
Right, I remember that.
And my office was at the church at the end of the street here. We had a family walk in, and I started in 2015. Everybody remembers the snow we got in 2015, okay? It was a nightmare, okay? Mom and 2 kids walk in shower shoes, you know, the kind you wear in a shower or to the beach. In the middle of the blizzard, we got 2.5 feet of snow that storm. They were sleeping in an abandoned building here in Fitchburg, had no food, had not even winter coats, and the abandoned building had no heat, no nothing. It's those kinds of situations. That's why we're there, you know. So, yes, sometimes people get evicted, and that's what led to it, you know. But we all know that, you know, it doesn't take much to get evicted. Let's say you have a married couple or whatnot, or two adults. The relationship breaks down. One of them jets, leaves the other with the kids. They can't afford it on their own. They get evicted. It's that simple, and it's depressing and hard, but that's what happens. And once you get an eviction on your record, even if you tried to avoid it, you're blacklisted. Because all the landlords know electronically that you have an eviction. Now, we take folks to the shelter with evictions, knowing that it's going to be an uphill battle to try to find a place for them. You know, so when we say that, you know, we have, you know, roughly 50% that have found permanent housing, that was a major accomplishment to find half of them a place to live. And the other half, you might worry what happens to them when they come to the shelter, but maybe they can't find a place. We work hard to try to make their situation better. Maybe they came in without $1. Maybe their credit was in the dumper. Maybe they didn't have a job. And now when they're leaving, they have a job. They've saved, you know, first, last, and security, $5, $6, $7 grand or whatever they have to save. And all they have in front of them is just to find that place. At least they're better positioned. So that's what we strive to do every day there. You know, you came for a tour years ago.
I came 2 years ago, yeah.
Yep.
But this place you're building down in Leominster, down the street from you, it's going to be 15 units. How long are the homeless people going to be able to live in your 15-unit apartment? Is it forever?
So I think the matter at hand right now is, are we going to give the $10,000 recommendation to fund the staff at North Star Family Services for the shelter right now?
I like to ask questions what he's doing with the 10,000. This is the whole purpose of the 10, right?
No, the 10,000 will be to fund this for the staff salary.
Right, I understand.
That won't go far. So I think the 15 units is terrific, but let's cross that bridge when we get there. It's really not before us right now.
All right.
Thank you.
I can bring you for a tour to see if you'd like.
I'll go for a tour.
All right, I'll call you.
I'll come down and see you.
Excellent.
President Zarella.
Thank you. I just want to say my first job out of college was through AmeriCorps with legal aid before I went off to law school. And so I got to talk to a lot of people who were either facing eviction or recently evicted. And were there some people who just made really dumb choices? Sure. Then again, I've made dumb choices. Thankfully, never got evicted for it. But the vast majority of people that I spoke to on the phone at that legal aid in Worcester were people who had, for the most part, done everything right. And something went wrong that was mostly outside their control, and they wound up getting evicted. Sometimes it wasn't even them. Sometimes they were up to date on their rent, and their landlord was evicting them for some other reason. And those folks that maybe didn't do something on purpose and something happened, they don't have a support system. That's the problem. Like, if I lost my home today, I could talk to friends, family, somebody from church, somebody from my job. You know, I've got options. I wouldn't be sleeping outside tonight. I'm pretty sure. At least I hope so. But many of these families, they don't have that person to call for many reasons. Maybe their families passed away. Maybe they're from, you know, some other part of the United States. Maybe they've burned a bridge. You know, that's possible. You know, there's bad relationships out there all the time, right? But it's tough. It's tough, these situations. And so I guess the point I'm making here is just, I think this is a very worthwhile expenditure because we can't know the circumstances. All we know is that there are people out there who have done nothing, you know, there are people out there who've done nothing wrong and who are still in desperate straits. And if we can make sure that they have at least an opportunity to get back into stability, you know, we can't do it for them. You guys can't do it for them, and no one expects you to, but if they have a chance, then, you know, that's all some of them need. Some of the best parts of that year were the success stories where someone got the small break that they needed, which was enough to put them back on their feet. and then we only heard back from them when they called to say thank you, as opposed to, oh crap, it happened again,
Right.
That's not the majority.
I've been with North Star for over 10 years now, and I've only know of 3 families that have called back saying, oh crap, we're in the situation again. Now, is that hard data? No, because you can't get in touch with everybody. Their phone gets turned off. You can't follow up with everybody that possibly leaves. But if they're in desperate straits and we helped them before, they would call, right? So I take it as real.
I yield the floor.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that in my day job, we had a family who had fire in their apartment, and the fire department said it wasn't their fault. They had to leave, and so they were in a situation, they had 3 kids. They didn't have a place to go, and they went from hotel to hotel to hotel, back and forth. Finally, they ended up at North Star. They were very happy there, and they are now living in their own apartment.
How long ago was that?
It was about a little over a year ago. So, and every once in a while, I hear from the dad who texts me and says, we're doing great.
That's wonderful.
So,
Feels good.
So thank you for what you do.
Thanks.
Seeing no further comments, we have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Seeing no objections, is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving forward here through public service, I'm going to describe it briefly, and I want to encourage the committee members, if they have suggestions or would like to make cuts, let's ask them. If not, if there's no problem with the allocation, the recommendation, let's try to make this go and approve if we can. Next up is J, Community Legal Aid. This is the one we spoke of before. The Councillor Walsh would like to increase from $5,000 to $10,000, which is the community development recommendation. This project will provide comprehensive legal outreach and advocacy to Fitchburg's low-income and elderly renters with the goal of helping them obtain and maintain safe, affordable housing. It is through Community Legal Aid that we have with us. Thanks for coming.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Inez Kenny, and I am the Managing Attorney of Community Legal Aid's Fitchburg office.
Do we have questions? Further concerns? There's a recommendation to...
I got one concern. As long as they're working to get a hand-in-hand with, not only with the tenant, with landlords.
Yes,
That's
so,
my big thing.
Yep. Yeah, so, with our homelessness prevention, in our housing unit in general, we really try to provide holistic services to everybody involved. And we, at the end of the day, not only want to keep people housed, but we want to keep the landlord-tenant relationship a positive one. We want everybody to be happy. We want the tenants to be connected with the services that they need, so that the landlord doesn't have any further issues. We have a lot of individuals with disabilities who are facing evictions because of cleanliness issues. So we actually can connect them with services as well. So it's not just, about financial resources like Graft, which you mentioned before. It's also, helping tenants get the supports that they need, helping them maintain their homes. We've had a lot of people coming in with significant conditions issues where the Board of Health is involved and has been very helpful. I actually believe Councillor Boschman, somebody that you referred to us, came in last year and we were able to assist that individual. So, we really do a lot, and we really try to maintain the landlord-tenant relationship a positive one, because at the end of the day, if we don't do that, they're just going to keep coming back to us, and we don't want that to happen. We want everybody involved to be in a good place and happy with the outcome and resolution.
All right, but Council, Mr. President, if you weren't looking for a cut, I'll give you one already. That would be N. It would be next line down, but I'll just tell them that so she knows. Okay, I'm all in favor of, don't get me wrong, but as long as we're working hand in hand, because we're not always right either. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that. But the tenant's not always right either. Yep. It's a two-way street. And most of the tenants that I know, landlords that I know, they prefer to work, and they do try to work with people. The ones I know, it takes a long time for them to go to the eviction notice, to the eviction route.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that right now, and I know they're very, very good people, and they don't charge market rate housing what they get. So I just want you to know that. That's why I know, and I am a landlord, and I see the difference too.
Yeah.
That's all. And I never get in trouble, so don't get me wrong.
Thank you, Councilor. President Zarella.
Thank you. It's always been my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's always been my understanding that one of the bedrock truisms of landlord-tenant law is that if a landlord wants to get rid of a tenant, they eventually can. So it only behooves any attorney working with a tenant to try to keep the landlord-tenant relationship stable, because let's say you defend the tenant successfully against an eviction for non-payment of rent or any other for-cause eviction. Well, eventually the landlord's just going to give a no-cause eviction notice and say, I don't want to rent to you anymore, so you're out. And that's always an option the landlords have. So trying to win a case for a tenant at the expense of the landlord-tenant relationship is only ever a Band-Aid to begin with. So I guess all I'm saying is I can verify again from, granted my limited experience, I don't do landlord-tenant anymore, but that yes, I guarantee you that the attorneys at Legal Aid will be looking to work positively and collaboratively with landlords wherever the landlords are willing to do so.
Right, and I can say, I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say probably 98 or 99% of the cases that we take on resolve in mediation. Sometimes we do work with landlords who are willing to work with us before they even file a case in court, and we are able to resolve the situation. But, you know, if as you said, if a landlord really does not want a tenant in that apartment for whatever reason, and they take it to trial, you know, that's another determination that we have to make too. We're not going to take every single case to trial, right? It has to be meritorious. So we understand that there are, you know, gives and takes on both sides as well. And I think, pride ourselves in knowing that we can come up with a good resolution. A lot of times the landlords are also represented by counsel, but even if they are not, we always try to come up with something that is good for both, you know, so there's a lot of give and take on both sides.
Notice one thing I wanted to tell you.
Just a sec. Are you all set, President?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, good.
I just want to say one thing. When you get two lawyers involved, you get problems.
Thank you, Councilor. We have three on the council. Yeah, we're surrounded right now, Councilor Bushman. So
I don't think you can have enough lawyers, Paul.
I'll keep my mouth shut on that one as the chair. Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion that the Finance Committee approves the community development recommendation over the mayors of 10,000, not 5. Do I have that motion?
I would make a motion that we hold this item only because if we're going to recommend an increase, we should have identified the cut first.
I'm in agreement.
So let's hold it in anticipation of increasing it to 10,000.
It's a good idea. A motion to hold. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion to hold in second.
I'll hold that one.
Seeing no objections, it is held for now. Moving right along to K, the Resident Service Coordinator and activities at First Parish Housing at the Sundial. Both recommendations are 7,000. Do we have any concerns from committee members, or are we okay approving this one as is?
I got a concern about this one.
Okay. Councilor Bushman.
I am not going to support this proposal of $7,000. We have the senior center is the place this money should go to support the programs and reach out to the elderly there. I think we're not giving enough responsibility to the senior center. That's why we have a senior center for programs like this, so they can go and listen to people come in and talk. So I'm not in favor of this program, the $7,000. I think the money should be allocated to the senior center and let them run the program so it benefits more of a community of seniors than just 125 people.
Okay.
They didn't apply, so we can't allocate money to them. They didn't apply.
So senior debtor didn't apply, so we can't allocate money for them. But also, having been to the Sundial myself on several occasions, many of its residents would have a very challenging time making it to the senior center for a myriad of reasons. They are there, and that's where they're going to have to stay without a special transportation. Unless there is any further comment, I would love to, Councilor Kuchar.
Thank you. I would just put in that it's reduced by 2,000.
Okay, do we want to hold this and see if we can find 2,000? President Zerlo.
So I would just ask on what grounds, for what reason?
I mean, they're asking for 7,000. Obviously, that's not going to be a full-time position. More than likely, it's just going to be a stipend for somebody who's already working there. Accurate?
I believe it is a part-time person. I don't believe this is the only money, but I don't have the full application.
So they're going to have a person there making $7,000 a year for, to do this?
I think I do think that there is other funding, that they have a part-time person that is not just earning $7,000, that there's some other funding, but I don't, off the top of my head, know what it is.
I mean, if there is other funding, I would suggest we reduce it from the 7,000 down to 5,000, and they can. And then now we only have to find 3,000 additional for the community legal aid.
So do we have a motion?
He just said it.
I think I'm going to recommend alternate sourcing for the legal aid increase. So I guess my only question is, are we sure that the $7,000 is the needed amount?
I mean, I can't answer that question off the top of my. Without them here, they need to. They need to answer that question.
Hold on for a minute. I can tell you right now.
And ask for a motion one more time to approve or hold.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion to approve and a second. Anyone on the motion? All right. I will do this roll call vote. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Councilor Zarella.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Councilor Boschman.
With the hold?
No, to approve the 7,000.
No.
The no?
No.
And a no. It passes 3-2. All right, moving right along. The Project L, Project Themed Transportation, Project Learn Themed Transportation to the Boys and Girls Club. Community Development recommended 18,000. The mayor recommended 16,500. Proposed project would currently transport 106 Fitchburg youth ages 8 to 18 from South Street, Rheingold, McKay, Crocker Memorial, Fitchburg High, and Long Show from September through June to the Boys and Girls Club for after-school program project Full Steam Ahead. Do you have any questions from committee members, or are we comfortable voting?
I got one thing on the Boys and Girls Club. I'll say it wholeheartedly. If we provided public transportation to the Boys and Girls Club, I think you would see that number increase from 106 to probably 250. Right now, the problem they have, and I'll use my wife again. My wife doesn't like to put people out, so if my kids weren't there and she didn't have a ride to pick them up, she doesn't like to ask Mr. Cruz to take them home, or bring them there, or take them home, vice versa, or to take them home. He feels that you're putting people out of place. This is a very good program, just like the Spartacus Club is a very good program. I think we don't invest enough money in these kind of programs. It has rewarding results on the very end, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we should look at this next year very closely and invest more money, because it helps the kids get off the streets, and the officer can speak, and it gives them a place to go, and they learn stuff. It isn't just hanging around. They learn stuff. It helps them with their education, and they get to meet different people of different cultures, and it's very good. And when I tell you that, I've been up there, and I cracked up one day a long time ago. They showed me something, I couldn't believe it. I just started laughing, but he showed me this thing. It was really neat. I said, wow, I wish I had that when I was a kid.
If I can ask Director Murphy here, their request was for 72,000. Our recommendations were significantly less. Can you explain the thought process behind what we're able to offer them?
Well, we actually funded them at $14,000 last year, so this is actually a $2,500 increase.
I see. So the request was 71, and we got to 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
72. The 72,000, I believe, represents their actual costs of busing the students. So they ask for that amount every year.
I see.
We're not able to fund 72,000 out of public services That's like half of the money that we have.
As you mentioned, there's a, what was 15%?
15% cap.
So this is very much about sort of our spreading our wealth around because we can't
Exactly.
put all our eggs in one basket. Okay. Thank you, Director Murphy. President Zarella.
So this is a partial funding of a total cost. So the 106 that they say they transport, that's the total amount. That won't be reduced by the fact that we're funding less than they're asking for, or
They have never reduced their transportation. I think their transportation costs are fixed. They're asking for as much assistance to cover that cost as they can.
Gotcha. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like their proposal said 106, but we're only funding them to transport 20 or something like that. Okay, excellent. So they'll do the full complement.
Do we have a motion to approve the mayor's recommendation of $16,500?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no objections, it is approved. Moving on to the Mayor's Energy Fund M. This will be through the Mayor's office. $5,000 is both recommendations. This will funding for HUD income guidelines to allow low-income residents to apply for relief to go toward utility costs during the winter months.
I make a motion that we take that $5,000 and give it to legal aid. I get programs here outside here, called heating assistance programs. You can make up to almost $80,000 of family of three.
Before we have a second on that, Director Murphy, would you like to comment on this?
I believe the assistance, so fuel assistance helps folks that earn up to 60% of area median income. So this program can help those folks that earn between 60% area median income and 80%, because our income limits are a little bit higher. So we can help a batch of people that fuel assistance can't help.
And I'm considerably confident we can find the $5,000 somewhere else. I know that I have some areas here that I don't think should be funded at the current recommendations, but President Zarella.
I've asked, this has been asked not by me actually, but in previous years that I've been on the committee, and I don't remember the answer clearly. About how many people do we help with this each year?
So this is a relatively new program. The previous administration started it and I think operated it 1 year for one season before they were no longer there. So the funding that they have for this current year, I believe is mostly is not fully depleted. I don't know how many people they've assisted. I think they still do have some money, but I would imagine by the end of the season they'll be out of money.
But just in
so
as a general
generally,
estimate.
I would expect that it's assisting between 5 and 10 people.
Okay,
Not a lot of money. It's $500 per person.
Right, because that's my concern. You know, I'm all in favor of helping people who fall into the gap. But if it's only 5 or 10, and we have a lot more than that across the city who need it, it seems almost like just a lottery windfall to those 5 or 10 people, where everyone else in the city who's in the same situation at the same income level, you know, it just has to do without. I'm not sure that funding assistance for 5 to 10 people really makes the same sense as putting it into the legal aid. So I'll yield the floor and wait to hear what my colleagues have to say.
It sounds like there's maybe some consent on this. We have a motion to not recommend this and to move it to legal aid. Do I have a second there?
Yes, second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll do this on the roll call. Councillor Kuchar?
Yes.
Councillor Boschman?
Yes.
I'm a no. Councillor Zarella?
Yes.
Councillor Walsh?
Yes.
4-1. We will cut. We will not recommend the Mayor's Energy Fund at $5,000 and move it to legal aid. Moving on to public services. This is for one-on-one mentoring for Fitchburg youth. Item N. This will go through Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Mass and Metro West. Both recommendations are for $5,000. The focus will be on children at McKay Elementary School who are recommended for Big Brothers Big Sisters one-on-one mentoring by school staff. Do we have any questions for Director Murphy, or are we ready to entertain a motion?
Motion to approve.
I got a question for one question to be fast.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you. Liz?
Yes, sir.
I noticed a lot of different programs coming here, and they write different things. I read some of the things that they wrote in your thing that you gave me. Are we that bad off to say that the kids of today have problems? Well, you want big brother, big sister, they say some are depressed, some are not happy, some are in trouble. I mean,
I am by no means an expert in this area. I'm not sure that I could really answer that question.
well, I see all these programs coming in, and we're jumping on board to finance them. I mean, I just was wondering.
So I think it can be incredibly challenging to come up with definitive answers like that when, sort of the range of what young people need is very different. So it could be, small mentorship that maybe they get some, confidence from their mentor, or they need some guidance, or they need a friend, they need some time, some socialization. It's difficult to put definitive results on some of these things.
The world must have changed a lot since I was a kid.
Yes, it has.
That was a long time ago.
Do we have our motion in a second?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, motion is second. Seeing no objections, unanimous consent is approved. Okay, moving on to the final public service item O. This is for the Spartacus program through the YMCA of Central Mass Montechusett Community Branch. Both recommendations are for $20,000. Spartacus is a program designed to help at-risk teens who are vulnerable to issues such as substance abuse, failing school, and limited multiple impulse control to make healthy decisions. Participants build their character, self-confidence, and abilities through a diverse curriculum, including exercise, academic tutoring, community service opportunities, and workshops on self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera. Do we have questions?
I got a question.
Councilor Boschman.
She's here. I went to see her
Please,
this
yes,
afternoon.
come on up.
I went to see her this afternoon.
All right. You didn't get all your questions out then?
Well, I'm just going to tell you about the program. It's really good. I believe in it. And she told me as long as education's the main focus of it, I have no problem with it. And that's my thing. If they can help them get ahead, because you need an education today.
Absolutely,
no
yes.
fooling around with
we
that.
help them with, we provide homework help, and then we also provide them with college applications and, next steps. We also have, we recruit mentors to come in and work with, to talk with them about whether it be college or careers. But yes, we also do health and wellness because we are a Y.
And it was busy, very busy.
I was going to say,
I just show up.
these are our applications to date, and we have kids coming in every single day.
Sounds like a terrific program. Would you like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion. We accept it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Seeing no objections, it is approved. Thank you for
very
coming and
much.
thank you for your patience.
Thank you for waiting for us.
Ma'am, would you mind sharing your name with us? That was my mistake. I should have asked you to introduce yourself originally.
I'm Lisa Welcome, the Executive Director of the Y.
Executive Director of the Y.
Very good program, too. You ought to take a walk up there sometime, unexpectedly.
And I realize that we should maybe jump to items if we have people here to speak about it. I think we have someone from Habitat for Humanity.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask that we skip down to you right now, if everyone's with me. This is for critical home repair for Habitat for Humanity. Both recommendations are $30,000. This program provides needed interior and exterior repairs addressing code violations, safety concerns, accessibility problems, and weatherization issues for low-income homeowners in Fitchburg. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, I'm Lisa Garvey. I'm with Habitat for North Central. I think everybody's very familiar with the program. We've been funding it for a number of years. Over the last 8 years, we've done 40 projects in Fitchburg with the funds that you've provided. As you all know, aging in place and having a safe home is really important to homeowners. It's very difficult at this time to get repairs done with all of the increases in other things that people feed and food and all of the other things. So we have a lot of applications, and we really just need the funding to move forward and provide the same program each year. We're hoping to do at least 6 to 8 critical repairs over the course of the next year, and we're working on the ones that you've provided funding for last year.
Thank you. Councilor Boschman.
I just want to I'll wait till Anthony talks, but this is a very good program. She helped quite a couple of my residents in Ward 2, especially the elderly. I'm all in favor of this 100%. When I say something I'm in favor, it's going to be good.
I think we know, Councilor. Councilor Zarella.
I just want to say, because I don't want to seem inconsistent in any way, I recognize that this also helps only a small number of people, but it's like the difference between the city investing in capital projects versus investing in, one-time, whatever, beautification or something like that. This is something that will make a lasting difference for those 6 to 8 people who it's able to help.
Really, it's probably 15 to 20 people it would help, but it's only 6 to 8 households. But mostly you'll find that they're seniors living alone who really don't have the income. So the impact seems less because there's less people in the homes that you're dealing with. But they would lose their homes. They would close through code violations. So it's really important, even though it does seem like a small number.
I can say, as my grandparents got older, thankfully, my family was blessed with the ability to make retrofits to their house for accessibility and so forth out of pocket. There are a lot of families there are a lot of elderly people who either don't have families in the area to help them or whose families can't help them with this. So I think this is a very valuable project for us to fund.
I'll make a motion we accept.
Second on the motion, I'll just say Habitat for Humanity is a wonderful organization. They do great things, and I'm looking forward to playing in a golf tournament this summer.
Excellent. We're looking forward to it.
Do we have any?
And we're always looking for land if you're looking to have us build homes.
Thank you. Do you have any objections? It's unanimously approved. Okay, jumping around here a little bit. Do we have anybody from Newview here with us yet? Not seeing anyone. We have the Fitchburg Board of Health is V for Code Enforcement. Director Curry has been very patient. This one is under Rehabilitation and Preservation. Both recommendations are for $121,000. The proposed project through the Fitchburg Board of Health will consist of implementation of an overall inspection and enforcement strategy to eliminate housing deterioration, substandard housing, vacancy, abandonment, and conditions of blight and lower income older housing stock in the community development block grant strategy neighborhoods. Dr. Curry.
Yes, sir, Council.
Questions from committee members? No. Seeing none.
Is this going to help you? This is going to help them implement that U program we're going to start in the city?
40U.
40U.
We started implementing 40U.
It is live as we speak.
And this will, and Councilor, this will allow the Board of Health to have more inspections and more enforcement, and then once it gets past that stage, we can then use 40U, which is being implemented. 40U is sort of that step to get the tickets that they file, not, for lack of a better word, not tickets, or
tickets.
Fines, tickets and fines. That's 40U is to be able to get those through court quicker so that the city can get the money it's rightfully owed, and we can put it on their tax bill.
And start repairing their properties.
Hopefully they start repairing their properties, yes. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Seeing no objections, it is approved. Moving right down to W, because we have Commissioner Zemmel here, who has been very patient as well. W is through the Fitchburg Building Department, improving community and economic development through improved code enforcement, a very similar thing as previously. Funding will provide 2 part-time local building inspectors whose primary responsibilities will be to address complaints related to building code, zoning, and other land use related city ordinances and regulations within the community development block grant target area. The recommendation from community development is $118,500. The mayor has recommended $91,000. Commissioner Zemmel, thank you for waiting and being so patient.
Thank you very much, Councilor and councilors.
Questions from committee members?
I got a question.
Councilor Boschman.
I read your thing here, and I know we don't want to start, you said it to me before, we don't want to start using grants like this to hire people all the time. How come we just don't raise the fees? Mark, the guy before you, wanted to raise the fees so he could get another inspector. And we haven't raised the fees. Why not? If
We are in the process of doing a survey to look into the fees. We have projected fee increases compared to other communities in the area, and we're still doing that research. But those fees go to the general fund. And even when we were bringing in fees, where right now I think last year our budget was for about $750,000, and we brought in, based on our open gov records, about 1.5 million or so in fees. The fees go to the general fund and then get reallocated. The history has shown that a lot of times that doesn't go back towards additional services, additional inspectors, and we have this need right now. And in discussions with the finance team, we can't really project those fees because we haven't started implementing them. I can tell you that for the building side, we in 2023 received 1,744 building permits for about $163 million worth of work, and received 266 zoning determinations, what we call forms of intent. But in 2024, we received about 100 less building permits, 1,641, but we received 309 forms of intent, and those building permits were for about $233 million worth of work. So our work, even though the number of building permits is slightly less between 2023 and 2024, the actual magnitude of the projects and the amount of tax dollars and such that it's bringing into the city because of the value of that work is significantly more. And so our inspectors aren't able to do the zoning enforcement that we really need, because they're being pulled onto these bigger projects, and we're trying to keep to a 24 to 48 hour time frame of getting our building inspections done from request to inspection. Usually it's same day inspections. That we really need this help. In addition to that, what we found is that a lot of the zoning issues and code enforcement issues that we really need addressed happen after hours. And so having the two part-time people, and the difference, as the chair noted, the mayor suggested less money than what we originally requested, because what we originally requested was one full-time person, which required benefits. If we break it down to two part-time people, then we don't have to pay benefits. That's where that cost savings is. Plus, it also gives us more flexibility to assign hours. As I mentioned during the break, we're working with the police department on creating ride-along program with them, so that the police and this future position can work together on code enforcement issues and nuisance issues like unserviceable vehicles and businesses that are operating without licenses and unpermitted work and such.
Okay. So you want two?
So two part-time.
Two part-time. And you got how many building inspectors? Three?
We have two building inspectors.
You got John and the other guy?
And Mark Sullivan. Yes.
Mark Sullivan. What happened to the other guy?
He left, and the money that was used to pay him was moved to a different department by the previous mayor.
Oh, from the previous mayor?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
So
that.
he would not allow the previous commissioner to fill that position after Inspector Zupa left.
And you're there, right? So there's three, but you're only there one. You're not there every day.
I'm full-time, but I actually am in the field more often than Commissioner Barbadoro was, but I'm managing all the day-to-day and all the bigger level projects and all of the administrative stuff, where one of the big things that's happened was when I came in, we had a backlog, especially in one of our building inspectors' permit applications of over 300 some odd permits. And what I've done is I have redirected all building permits to flow through me, and then readjusted so that some permits like windows, siding, doors can be fast-tracked through the inspectors. But I'm able to see every single thing that goes in. The previous commissioner really didn't do that. He was more focused on administrative and zoning. And I'm really into the weeds on every single permit I touch at least once, if not twice. before the permit is closed out. I've also implemented the closeout document, which a lot of contractors have been appreciating, because now when a project is done, they actually get a document, either a certificate of occupancy or a letter of completion, that says the project is done. So we're getting actual closeout documents, so contractors are able to get paid and such, because they're able to provide something from our department to the owner saying, look, the job is done.
Oh, okay, that I like. So you're telling me, too, we're working better with contractors? We're not hearing as many complaints, Anthony? Are we hearing a lot of complaints like we used to hear?
So regardless of whatever complaints you may be hearing, let's stay focused with.
I am focused.
90. You're very focused, but the question at hand is whether or not to allocate 91,000 or to recommend the allocation of 91,000 as the mayor's recommendation for this building and code enforcement.
One more question. Are you going to have these people work on the weekends?
The goal is to have them working weekends and evening hours, at least one of them, maybe rotate it. It gives us the flexibility to adjust to our needs so that we can have weekend and evening hours.
So, my final question, how would you know if they're working on a weekend?
We assign them hours, they're staff.
Oh, you're going to have tasks for them to do?
Yes.
Okay.
And I imagine that work would need to be done, and there would need to be paperwork, and there would need to be
I just don't want to have somebody get paid for doing nothing.
Nobody wants that, Councillor.
Completely agreed.
Completely agreed. Do you have a question for?
I have only one question and a very brief comment. My only question, which is honestly just pure curiosity, is. No, you know what? I'm going to skip it because it's not actually relevant to my decision. So I'll just make a very brief comment, which is that ever since my time on the zoning board, I can definitely say a big bottleneck to enforcement was the lack of available inspectors. There were a lot of, at least when I was on the board, there were a lot of special permit conditions and so forth that the zoning board basically had to be responsible for enforcing itself because there was no one else to do it. Zoning board members would drive out to properties that had previously been approved and look and see if the conditions were being complied with. And I will also say, this is the first I'm hearing about the ride-along program, but I like it because there were also issues that we dealt with frequently where one of us would put a call into the building commissioner and they'd say, no, that's actually something that the police handle, or we'd put a call into the police and they'd say, that's the building department. So I'm pleased to see the coordination, and I'm very pleased to see this allocation because I think it has been needed for a very long time.
I would agree. We have a number of issues, especially on the weekends, as we've talked about at length quite a bit, some of the things that are very difficult to handle if it's not on the weekend. So do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any objection to approval of Z? Oh, excuse me, not Z, excuse me.
W.
W, thank you. Any objections?
No.
Seeing none?
I'll break my heart and give it the okay.
Okay, seeing none, it is approved. It was W. Thank you, Commissioner Zamel.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you. Commissioner Erickson, are you waiting on anything? No, you're just hanging out? All right, thanks for sticking around.
He wants to talk to me.
Is that what it is? All right, so in that case, we are jumping back up to Q as we have cleared everybody who is here is waiting to speak. Q is for economic development, is for small business technical assistance through New View Communities, seeks funding for personnel to continue to provide technical assistance to small business owners and those positioned to start a small business. Both recommendations are $30,000. Director Murphy, do you have anything to add before we open up to committee?
I will say that we rely on the small business technical assistance very much when we are working with small businesses that are either trying to get a loan through us or other entities or just trying to open a business. They help with business plans, they help put financials together, they help with identifying locations and sources of funding for those businesses. So it is a very useful resource.
Questions from committee members? Councillor Kuchar.
Thank you. I listened to what Ms. Wetchy said in regards to New View Communities. In regards to their online program for illegals. And that's not conspiracy theory. That's not a falsity. It is actually happening. I've been in contact with somebody who has reported them to ICE. They've reported them to the DOJ for harboring this. And one of the issues that I have with it is, I mean, the federal government could come down on the city of Fitchburg. I'm not going to say that they could or they're not, or, you know, but it's a possibility with them doing this. And I think when I learned about this issue, I think I contacted some of my my colleagues here.
You didn't contact me.
Well, sorry, Paul. No offense, buddy. But there's been, for a lack of a better term, moles who have signed up for these projects or these sessions, these online classes.
Counselor, as I know that you're a lawyer, so you know better than me, but I don't know if it would be appropriate to discuss any sort of investigation or operations that are going on.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. These are private individuals, not federal individuals that I know of. But private individuals have logged into these, and right on point with what they're asking for. They're telling these people here illegally to start small businesses in order to get around the requirement of having a Social Security number by using the tax ID.
Counselor, but I don't think this is sort of any kind of hard, for lack of a better term, evidence to bring to this body.
Well, I'm not.
We're here to talk about $30,000. Tell them that, like you tell me all the time.
We are here to talk about whether or not we're going to allocate $30,000 as recommended to New View Communities. I understand you have questions regarding New View Communities and some of their other operations, but regarding potential investigations or mole work or anything like that, I don't know if it bears grounds here for this conversation.
Well, I don't think we should. Don't get me wrong. New View Communities has done good work in the past, but with this new issue coming to light, I think we should really, before we do anything, we should hold this and get New View Community in here to ask some serious questions.
I really cannot. It would be incredibly inappropriate for us to answer any sort of questions regarding, as you put it, the harboring of what I will call migrants or anything of that nature. We're here to discuss the $30,000 for small business technical assistance to New View Communities, who has been, in my opinion, a terrific partner for the city of Fitchburg.
I agree, they've been a terrific partner. I'm not putting them down, but if they are doing this, and they are,
and it's not our responsibility to determine.
Okay.
Councilor Zarella.
Yeah, I just want to say, if in fact New View is involved in anything that is not legally kosher, then that is of concern, but I don't know that it's of concern to this particular grant, because this is for small businesses. And I've known some of the businesses that have contacted this specific program to receive assistance before. They're longtime Fitchburg residents. I'm not going to say that every single person who's ever received assistance from this program is, but this helps a lot of Fitchburg residents. And as far as, with apologies to my colleague, as far as the specter of a government crackdown on the city of Fitchburg, this is a block grant established by statute. The president has no control over whether Fitchburg specifically gets CDBG funding, and certainly allocating our CDBG funding to a facially lawful purpose would not give rise to, as far as I can tell, any liability on the part of the city, unless we had actual knowledge that this was being diverted to, persons without legal status. I would like to ask some questions of New View in general, but I'm not sure that this is the vehicle to do it. I think that this helps an awful lot of businesses get their start, get their work through difficulties. And also, this is in partnership with the chamber too, which I think we've all worked with before. They're on the up and up. New View is a broad organization that has has a lot of projects running. I don't think that any one project necessarily has crossover with any other particular project. For example, the Fitchburg Arts Community. Is there some non-zero possibility that some unit might be rented by a person with legal issues? Well, maybe, but that doesn't make the project itself suspect. That's the same way I feel about this. Unless we were to receive reliable information that this particular program was being deliberately leveraged to, evade the law in some way, which I don't think we're there at the moment. So I'm in favor of this.
I do have one question. Thank you. I do have one question for you, Director Murphy. There's been some misconceptions. This particular allocation, and they're not loans, correct?
No, this is technical assistance. This funding is going to pay the staff of New View to offer technical assistance.
Okay. But it's, there's no loaning this funding out. This is...
No. The city of Fitchburg does have a separate small business loan program, and I will say that we do have to document that, the status of applicants.
Okay.
So we are not...
Do you have any further questions or comments from committee members? Councilor Boschman.
Liz, you were talking about New View back and what they did and how they help different businesses.
Sure.
What does our economic developer do?
I would love to have that conversation with you over a coffee, perhaps.
What was your question? I missed it. I apologize.
What does our economic developer do?
That is a question for another time.
Oh my God! She's telling me how New View and their crew goes out and finds a place of land and buildings and everything else.
Sure.
To do that, and my question is, isn't that the economic developer's job to do exactly what New View's doing?
And I would say the economic developer does aspects of that job, but if she were to do the entire job, that's all she would be doing for the city. She wouldn't have enough time to do all of the other things that she does. She does a wide range of activities.
I would
including assisting with businesses just navigating through the city's permitting system, which actually takes a lot of time these days.
Yes. I would say it's a collaborative approach, much like we do with many NGOs and nonprofits in the area.
All right.
All right.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have an objection? We have one objection.
No, I won't give you.
And I'm in favor. It passes 4-1. Moving down to the sign and facade program through community development and planning proposes to reduce blighted condition in target areas and increase economic activity by providing assistance to business owners to replace defunct signs with professionally designed quality signage. Both recommendations are for $60,000. Commissioner Director Murphy, do you have a comment before questions from committee?
We've had really good response to this program, so we expect that we will run out of funding, and we will need to replenish it.
Questions?
Make a motion we accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Seeing no objections, it is approved. We did Habitat for Humanity. We did code enforcement to the Board of Health and the Building Department. We are moving down to demolition. Why?
No, we're not. We're doing S.
Didn't do S.
S. I apologize.
We're just in a hurry yet.
I don't mean to be in a hurry. I apologize. I missed S. The final of economic development is S, Fitchburg Downtown Coordinator, through Community Development Planning, in the amount of $35,000 in both recommendations. This is something that we have done consistently with community development block grants with this number.
Yeah.
Questions from committee members?
I'm not going to support this. I just want Liz to know. I feel that this is going to be Fitchburg State. They said it's going to be a full-time employee of Fitchburg State, according to what I have read in their records. And I feel then they'll be doing mostly Fitchburg State work and some downtown coordination. I'm not going to support it. And I also believe, and I'll go back to what I just got done saying, until I get rudely interrupted by my fellow councilor. We have an economic developer that should be doing this program. That's what the whole thing up there is for, and we're not doing what we're supposed to do. So I can't wholeheartedly support this project. If downtown wants a coordinator, then the different businesses should get together and get somebody to do it, to start focusing on the businesses. I don't think government should be focusing on business. I think we should help them, but I don't think we should be that much involved.
That is the goal, to get the businesses to work together and then to ultimately have their own downtown coordinator. In the interim.
So my answer is no on this one. So
Thank you, Councilor. President Sorella.
I just want to say, I mean, there are questions that I'll be asking at some future point about the economic development sort of sub-department, but we still are going to need, no matter what, no matter who we have in that office, no matter what that office does, we're going to still need some of these specialists, because any one of these tasks, you can't have one person doing all those things. This one in particular, as was just discussed, we've talked about this in years past, the ultimate goal is essentially something akin to a Main Street Business Association. I remember last year I asked because my grandfather was one of the founding members of the Water Street Businessmen's Association. Back then it was businessmen. You know, that is the goal. But the world is a lot different than it was back in the 1950s and 60s. The ability of all these disparate businesses to just spontaneously have people among them who are going to have the wherewithal and initiative to organize like that, it doesn't happen as often these days. We don't see it happening as often these days anywhere, not just here in Fitchburg. So if they need a little bit of a push to get started, to set up an association like that, then I'm in favor of that, because if we have each of our businesses in their own separate silos, each business trying to keep its own lights on, trying to keep its own books in the black, there's a lot of synergy that we're losing out on there. But to have someone network them, that is a job. I don't want to say a full-time job, because I don't know that it's necessarily full-time in the technical sense, but it's certainly a job that if you assign it to someone, they're not going to have a lot of time for other tasks. And I do think that the university will be a large component of what this person does, because getting students to come downtown, to come off campus and spend their money, shop, eat, you know, on Main Street, that's always been a goal. That's been a goal for as long as I've been on the council. If that's a major focus of this downtown coordinator, I don't have a problem with that. That doesn't mean they're working for the university. It means they're working to bring the university into a better partnership with the downtown business community. And that's a win for everyone. I yield the floor.
Councilor Walsh.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I just want to add that you'll see this is a little different. The application was actually submitted by us, the Community Development Department, instead of Fitchburg State University. This is the first year, because we have a memorandum of understanding now where we agree to share the responsibility of supervising the staff person. So even though they will technically work for Fitchburg State and they will have some responsibilities of Fitchburg State, they'll also be supervised by me. And so I'll be giving them direct activities to perform and overseeing those.
Thank you. That's a good clarification. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My comments are sort of Councilor Zarella stole my thunder here. What I was going to comment on was I think that that it's important to bring the university into the city, which will bring students into the city, and that's what we need. We need young people coming in and spending their parents' money. So I would be in favor of this.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. I'll come to you in 1 second, Councillor Boschman. I'd just like to say that I'd like to ask first: is this a match for match? The 35,000, 35,000?
It's actually a little more than a match for match. Well, actually, I don't know exactly what the benefits are. So my assumption is they might actually be picking up a little bit more than we are. The salary hasn't been set, and I do think in this uncertain climate that we're in, probably won't hire this person until we get a little more clarity about the CDBG program in general.
I see.
What's happening at the federal level right now.
Okay.
That goes for everything. But I think in particular, hiring this new person, there's probably going to be a little bit of waiting until there's more certainty that the Congress approves the CDBG allocation this year, which they haven't done yet because they haven't passed the budget.
Yeah, I think it's, especially with the amount of work that we have on schedule for downtown, it's going to be important to have a really good communicator and coordinator in this position, providing that assistance for these people downtown. And I am grateful, and I do want to give a quick shout out to Fitchburg State President Donna Hodge for recommitting to this and for rejoining us in this endeavor. Councillor Boschman.
Yeah, Liz, you just told me that you're going to oversee. How are you going to do it? You get so much to do. You get so much on your plate. You're going to have a lady with a big plate, and you got so much to do that something is going to go by the wayside. That's number one. Number two, on the $35,000, I have no problem. $35,000. Call it beautification. If people come up from downtown and they see flowers and nice decorations, all in favor. I think that would bring people downtown. If you look at the next door neighbor, I don't like to say who they are. You drive down there downtown, they beautiful flowers all over the place. It looks like you want to be there. It makes you feel great. You know what I mean? And now it's the other thing. And in regards to my counselors over here to my right, let me explain something. If you really want to do something good, if they want to do something, shut the cafeteria down over there and tell the people to come downtown and eat. They did it in Worcester, a school. Always shut down their cafeteria so they would support the local businesses. The students go to the downtown, and that was in Worcester, Massachusetts. So if they're really that concerned, they would do it. Because if you have good businesses downtown, they're going to come. There's an old saying that I always say it all the time. You build it, you make it good, and they're coming. You don't make it good, you're not going to come. And when you get good food, people come to good food. If your food's not that good, they don't come. I yield the floor.
Thank you. We will talk about the food at a later date, maybe.
That's the truth. You know it, too.
Do we have any more
Just very brief.
Okay.
I just want to say I went to college in a college town. It was much more so than Fitchburg is even. You know, it was a college town, as in the college was the only large employer in town. We had a lot of great restaurants in town that the students would patronize. We still ate on the campus meal plan because when you're a student, sometimes you don't have time to go off campus to eat. It's great to say, you know, if and when they have both the time and the disposable income, we'd love to bring them off campus. But that's not going to be every night. That might be 2 or 3 nights a week. And the other nights, they're dashing off to the dining hall, grabbing, you know, a bowl of rice and rushing back to their dorm. I'm speaking from direct experience here. Rushing back to their dorm to finish an essay or something. They don't have time to come down to, you know, to come off campus, take a trip, say 10, 15 minutes, depending on type of transportation each way, and wait in line somewhere and all that. They're going to be going to the cafeteria, heading back to the dorm. That's the reality. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have an objection?
You got one, me. No.
We have one objection. It passes 4-1. Okay, now I believe we're moving down. I don't mean to skip anything. If I do, please call me out. I believe we're on demolition Y. Okay, so we have moved on to demolition. This is once again through Community Development Department. This is demolition of select problem properties in the Community Development Block Grant target area. Recommendation is for $104,000, 412 for both. Director Murphy, that's a pretty significant fee.
You know, the cost of demolition is...
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's more than building in some cases.
We actually, it's been a few years since we've done any demolition, so, you know, we have some pent-up desire. We think 3 buildings is all we'll get, so that's all we're planning to move forward. We really won't know until we go out to bid, so we're a ways away from that.
Do we have 3 buildings that we have our eye on?
Yeah, so that would be 580 John Fitch Highway. That's the former Dunkin' Donuts.
That's Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. 7 3rd Street, which the city now owns. That is a very blighted, vacant building.
Is that the white building?
Yeah, I think it's white behind all that brush.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 145 Mechanic Street, which is a storefront that is had some safety hazards. So those
Boys
3.
Market.
Yeah.
Questions from
You know
committee
all
members?
the names.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No questions or comments?
No.
Seeing none, no objections, is approved. We are on to Z. Very good job, everyone. The final thing for the night. This is the administrative cost of the Community Development Block Grant, administration and planning. This is just the hours that it takes to take all the input, put everything together. Director Murphy, do you have any additional comments?
No, this is just what funds the staff that run the program.
Questions to approve?
I got one question before you make the motion.
Councilor
If somebody
Boschman.
cut this by $50,000 or $60,000, could you still operate?
No, I mean we would not have the capacity to. I mean you've already just said how full my plate is, so I don't know that I could take on that role, which is probably what would end up happening if I had to lose a staff person.
And
Not to mention we also we leverage our CDBG admin to go after other grant funds to help with DPW infrastructure projects, parks and playground projects, brownfields projects. We would, that CDBG money does a lot of work.
All right. I just wanted to know. I wanted to find out. That's
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Do you have any objections?
None. Make a motion, we adjourn.
That concludes our agenda for this evening. The next meeting, second Wednesday. Anybody? It's late. I'll just figure it out really quick.
Oh, nice.
March 12th, thank you. The next meeting of the Finance Committee will be March 12th. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. There's no objection. We are adjourned.